What is up, everybody? Welcome to a podcast that has the same number of NFL jobs as Matt Rule, the Sports Clichés podcast. I'm Craig. That's Jay. Jay, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. We're coming into a fun weekend here. We got some things going on IRL, but in the football world, we came off of just a wonderful Thursday night game last night. Um,
Stormer.
yeah, as you know, for 2 weeks in a row, Amazon gets a little shafted on their Thursday night deal and they get another 12-point winner.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, same winning team score, anyways. Um, Washington, Chicago. I think everybody took a look at this. I know we took a look at it as far as games coming up, and yeah, it didn't look like a good one on paper. Um, Definitely a defensive struggle. Some interesting play as the game went on. It wasn't completely without offense, but the mistakes, they start hitting, and and then by actually the end of it, pretty goddamn interesting game. I mean, if you only were able to catch maybe the last 8 minutes of this game in the fourth quarter, you actually caught a pretty decent game at the end of it. It was pretty interesting. You definitely had some interesting situational football choices. Um, you know, but I think in general, what you got to take away from both teams is they still need to figure out on offense. Their defense will probably keep them in some games that otherwise they would be getting blown out in. But yeah, not the prettiest game last night. But the Commanders getting it done. Um, you know, just not enough mistakes there. For Wentz to commit. And yeah, very interesting. I'm trying to think of the name of the back, but
Brian Robinson Jr.
rookie that came back from two
being
gunshot
shot.
wounds,
Yeah.
um, coming back very quickly and getting a touchdown his first game back. Nice story there, I suppose. But yeah, not a whole lot football wise. If you had fantasy players for either of these teams, probably nothing really jumping out of the board for you. Um, yeah, just meh, very meh game. But I don't know. I had a little. There was a little bit more to this one than last week, just based on the end of it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Carson Wentz, 12 of 22 for 99? Like, this is how far he's fallen? Like, I know for a lot of people, the memory of last year of Carson Wentz is that game against the Clowns, right? Where he had the 4.7 QBR or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
On a whole, on that year, dude threw up some numbers. Like, was he very hit and miss? Absolutely. He was Carson Wentz, but his numbers popped.
Yeah.
He's not even putting up numbers this year. He's just.
He was done kind of dirty. Curtis Samuel let him down on two different drops
Yeah.
in this game. One that was an easy tutty as well.
Yeah.
So his numbers would have looked a little better. He might have been creeping a little closer to over 150, at least putting a touchdown on there.
Yeah.
So, a guy who's, should be a little bit more reliable a receiver, unfortunately letting him down. But yeah, of course, that offense isn't popping in any regard. And
No.
they looked every bit as stuck, and even worse so in some cases, than the Chicago Bears offense, which has been historically bad, especially from the passing standpoint. Fields actually putting up a little bit of yardage this game, and definitely was able to get things done with his feet as well. So late in that game too. Fields really was the one who was able to even put them in a position to take this game late. A little questionable play calling, I would say, but at the same time, some plays to be made for the Bears there at the end. They just couldn't quite get it converted.
I would say with the Bears, they're trying to dig themselves out of a mess that was made by the regime before them, right? And if you look at their roster as a whole, the honest to God answer for what's wrong with their offense is there's just not enough talent there, right? Do they have a true out no out number one wide receiver? I mean, I like Darnell Mooney, but I don't think he's it.
Yeah,
Um, their
and
their running back situation is good, but without the offensive line to really help them, there's only so high that ceiling can go for that running game. I like Cole Kmet, but he's not being schemed in particularly well, I don't think. And obviously, can Justin Fields be your quarterback of the future? Ugh, big question mark there. With the Commanders, there's actual talent there. Robinson, Gibson, and McKissick, that's a running back room that should be able to work. You have Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, both of whom could on most teams be a at the very least 1B guy. Terry McLaurin, I still stand by the fact that if you give him a legitimate quarterback, he is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And I think it's so much worse right now for the team that won this game than it is for the team that lost. Because the Bears knew, right? The Bears came into the season thinking we're pretty shit. We're gonna be near the bottom of this league. We don't really have much of an offense, and we're reeling from the fact that we had a head coach and a GM who were trying to sabotage us for the last 3 years. It's rough. I think the Commanders, when they picked up Carson Wentz, you looked at their wide receiver room, you go, listen, Wentz makes his fair share of mistakes, but he'll put up numbers, man, and this offense will get going, and they'll get some yards, and they'll be able to do some stuff. And I think you look at the end of this game, the Bears go, yeah, we're where we thought we were. The Commanders go, fuck, man, I thought we had more here.
yeah, I couldn't really disagree. They can't really be. You can't consistently put up these kind of games and expect to come away with wins. I think also another thing is I'm sure you saw, leading up to this game, Ron Rivera and that whole
Yeah,
questioning and that sort of thing. And in the post presser after this game, just kind of blew up for a minute, just kind of, you know, was like, these guys put in work. Da, da, da. Some of the cliches, the sports
yeah,
cliches, that you kind of expect from the coach that you would have almost thought he would have done last week. But, trying to like kind of step back what he had said almost in a way.
yeah,
He clearly is frustrated by how it was presented in the media. But I mean, we all just they ask you a pretty straight up question.
yeah.
You're just not coming along, and then it's funny because he gives a one word answer in that interview, and you can tell the reporter is kind of dumbfounded. He expected a little bit more elaboration, and you could feel like the grand national media world maybe had done you wrong, Ron Rivera. That local reporter, whoever asked that question, helped him out because then he asked the follow up question. He's like,
Yeah.
"Well, there's like Cooper Rush and then like Ron kind of like digs it even a little bit further. It's just like, man, Ron, you gotta admit this team should not be putting up this number. I understand. Yeah, we don't love Carson Wentz. If there's one thing Carson Wentz like, you got more production out of Taylor Heineke last year than you got
Yeah.
out. You're getting out Carson Wentz
Oh,
right now.
so more.
That's inexcusable. Um, because I feel like if you got one thing with the Wentz is that you got a guy that's not gonna he's not afraid to fault, right? Like he'll make mistakes, but he'll also not be scared of going for plays as well. Yeah, the how stale this offense looks right now is troubling, and yeah, there's what are you going for at this point? They got their second win of the season here. They're still fourth in this division. It's a very strange division right now. You have a 5-0 and a 4-1 team in the NFC East right now. I don't think anybody expected that shit. I didn't. Um,
I I
maybe the
wouldn't have been surprised
Eagles.
at the
Maybe
five
the
and zero.
Eagles. Maybe the Eagles. 4-1 New York Giants is another thing. And at this point, you're only 6 games in, but you're not probably approaching either of those guys, as the season goes on. We'll see where the Giants end up, as the season progresses. Eagles we feel are pretty solid at what they're at. Um, yeah, it is. It's a bit of a mess in Washington at this point. You're kind of I I don't know if you can't probably pass this contract on, as far as Wentz. So you're probably, if it's looking really bad, Ron's probably one going.
I mean, the thing with a contract like Wentz's though is you see this happen in the NHL a lot, but you can find creative ways to maneuver that contract around by incentivizing draft picks and stuff like that. Right. I don't doesn't happen as much in the NFL, but it
No.
would be something to consider. Go to a team and you go, listen,
It's a big
you're gonna
number for these guys, though. It's
your
crazy.
your draft cap situation right now looking great. You got a ton of cap room. You're not a team that's gonna be very good next year. Say you're the Carolina Panthers. Example. You're going to have a new rookie quarterback who's going to be your starter. If I throw you a second round pick, could I convince you to take a shiny Carson Wentz as your backup? Maybe on a team with the right cap situation who
I don't
wants
know,
that
man.
pick really badly.
I mean, granted,
Who
this
can.
the trade happened already. We've seen these
Yeah.
like really albatross contracts, so it's not out of the realm. At the same time, like, who bites on that except the Washington, the Washington football team, Commanders, whoever they are, basically.
There
Um,
is a potential out on the contract after next season
yeah. So I
with
mean,
no dead cap space. So
but what are you holding on to Ron Rivera for? Are you feeling like this guy is going to lead you to where this team needs to be?
I
Either.
I actually think Riverboat Ron has overachieved with them a lot of times. Uh, I just wonder if he got. I don't know how much say Ron had in the Carson Wentz thing.
Right.
If he had a lot, then yeah, that's on him. But honestly, if your GM goes out and brings in Carson Wentz, you're kind of handcuffed into playing him, right? You're paying so much fucking money for him,
Yeah.
right? You almost have to play him. 2-4, Carson Wentz has been utterly useless at times this year.
Well,
Are we hitting the point where it might be Heineke time again?
granted, there's some garbage time numbers in there, but prior to this game going into it, he was the fifth best quarterback as far as passing yardage this season. He
Also
has been
thrown.
effective at times.
He's also thrown 6 picks to 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not a
that's
great
hey, that's
ratio.
but that's Carson Wentz, baby. I mean,
That's
that's what you're
Carson
getting.
Wentz, yeah.
You got a high volume of production at a quarterback position that you haven't otherwise been getting. Except the problem being is then you run into a game like this to where like they played down to the Bears basically. Like this team should have put up a lot better numbers than they did.
Yeah.
They played down to them, and I think that's a fundamental problem with this team. They don't play to the abilities of Antonio Gibson, McKissick, McLaurin, and honestly, I say to Wentz too. Like we agree, there's not really 32 starting quarterbacks in the league, but Wentz is at least in that conversation of being within that group of guys that would be starters. Obviously, he's been a starter, and
Yeah.
he's got it. He's gotten put into positions to where he's the starter for this team no matter what.
On the
Basically,
fringes of it for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So
He's definitely.
I could
I would put him kind of on the same situation of Davis Mills. Obviously different points in their career, but as far as on that ladder of starting quarterbacks, where it's like you are probably a starter, but you have hit the point where I really question it now. Right? Like I honestly I'm not 100% sold that Carson Wentz is a starting quarterback in the NFL anymore. I'm really not. Uh he he was always the guy who made mistakes in big games. there's a lot of guys who crack under pressure. That doesn't mean you don't have the caliber of a starting NFL quarterback. The ending to last season combined with the start to this season, and I know the yards pop a little bit, but it is worth noting with those yards, uh, 3 games of 300 plus yards. The other 3 games, one of them he just cracked 200. The other two were not even close.
Yeah, he's
Right.
he also has probably one of the worst offensive lines in the league right now. He's gotten sacked 23 times in 6 games this year. He got sacked 32 times the entirety of a 17-game season last season with the Colts. That's
Yes.
how bad. And
Yes.
that Colts offensive line looked weirdly bad last year. This is worse. This is much worse.
I thought
And
that,
yeah, you would think only 32 sacks last year. Oddly enough,
I thought that Colts offensive line was really good last year, right?
they
Like
were
you
they were good in. I feel like probably that first 2/3. They faded
they faded.
third.
But
last
I
time.
would
But you're,
put more of
I
that
would.
on the workload that was placed on them, given how the Colts ran the ball
I guess
last season.
I guess the feel is like that Colts line has continued to be the Colts line of the last
Okay.
third of last season, kind of more or
Gotcha.
less. Like that wasn't. It sustained for a while and then it's failed
And
them,
now
and
it's
now
fallen
it's
off.
fallen off
Gotcha.
completely.
Gotcha.
And,
Okay.
and in Washington, you're not even getting a better situation out of it. Oddly
No.
enough, both teams that are predicated on running the ball, so Carson Wentz really shouldn't be the key factor for either of those offenses, right? The Colts or the Washington Football Commanders teams. Like both these teams should be more focused. It should be at least 50-50 cut with your running game. But yeah, now you've had these really strange numbers, these super varied numbers: 300 yards one game, sub 100 yards the next. What the hell is this offense? This team in general, what's their identity? They're all over the place, and I think at the beginning of the day, you gotta look at the head coach for that shit too. The GM and personnel decisions absolutely factor in that as well. But at this point, you gotta make it happen with what you got, and we both agree there's enough talent kind of spread across here to where you should be able to make this happen.
The Commanders are much better talent-wise than a 2-4 team, especially when you look at their schedule. Right? Like they haven't had a world beaters schedule so far. Like, yeah, they've played the Eagles and Cowboys, who are both pretty good teams, but beyond that, Jaguars, Lions, Titans, Bears, come out of those 4 games 500, you're probably better talent-wise than that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is in Washington.
But I think we hit enough on that game. There were some interesting kind of things to come out of mostly the Washington side, but obviously, yeah, the Bears, they got to get that thing built up. Justin Fields has flashes of being able to do stuff, and then he's completely he's just inaccurate or what have you, and that team, 7 points speaks to the whole damn thing. That's pretty visible.
If you are a team going into next year who's not going to be around the top of this draft, a team, I don't know, the Jets, for example. Let's say Zach Wilson doesn't show you anything for the rest of the season. Bears are going to be near the top of this draft. They're going to be probably within those top 5 picks. They're probably looking at one of the big 3 quarterbacks that are going off the board early this year. Do you maybe look to take a swing at Justin Fields? Do you think you've seen enough there that maybe you can unlock something in him? He does show flashes of something, and obviously he was unreal in college, but do you think there's been enough there if you're one of those teams that maybe needs a quarterback that you take a look?
I think, I mean, you really got to have, your offensive coordinator is going to have to be able to work with a guy like that. It's going to utilize that quarterback as a runner. You're going to have to scheme around that. A lot of flood concepts, a lot of play action, rollout stuff, get space. Not like aren't quarterbacks out there that are doing that right now. It's kind of interesting, but it's it's hard to say. Like there's teams where I feel like yeah, you would have maybe pulled the trigger on that, especially if you're talking about, um, you know, who knows what you're going to end up with as far as uh, right now how the season's winding up for the Lions or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're getting out of the golf contract, I know they're probably on the hook for that for another season at least. I think we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Uh, Danny Dimes, I can't remember if he signed something this offseason as like an extension for them.
I don't
Um,
think so.
the Giants, they have utilized him as a runner too. So like, I don't know, some interesting little things there, but it's hard to say at this point of the
Yeah.
season. Um,
I don't
I,
disagree.
I,
It's just
I,
something that popped into my mind there as we were talking about it.
I think there's a talent to where he should get a. I mean, it might not wind up with a starting shot if he was to move on from Chicago. It might be in a secondary role.
And there have been players that's worked out for, right? Where you're in a bad situation, you go somewhere, you hold the clipboard for a little bit, you get in, you get your shot. It works.
Yeah.
Most famous example obviously being Brett Favre in Atlanta, right? Doesn't work in Atlanta, goes to Green Bay. It works there.
Yeah.
Uh it can happen, right? It absolutely can happen if you go somewhere where the situation's right for you to get your head back on, figure out where you're going, and recalibrate. The talent's there. I mean, he's shown it. There is some talent there, but it just doesn't. It feels like something's not working here. And it's pretty obvious to me that the Bears are ready to, like, if the Bears are a high draft pick this year, which they probably will be, they're taking quarterback. Right. They're taking Bryce Young. They're taking CJ Stroud. They're taking Will Levis.
Oh.
They're taking one of those big guys if they're there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to really kind of. I think this season's gonna tell a lot. It's really gonna, are you gonna keep running with this or not? That's what a lot of teams I think have to decide going forward. Obviously, as we go season to season, a lot of quarterbacks are big question marks out there. So, um, let's keep it going though. I mean, we spent 25 minutes on that game, so let's keep it going. Review some of these games from last week. The New York Giants. We just talked about Danny Dimes right there going into Green Bay.
No, going
you know
into
what?
London.
Yeah, going into London, right? Yeah, that's right. This was the international game, but yeah, representing as the away team to Green Bay's home team. Was able to catch a little bit of this game as far as the end of it myself. A big fizzle out as far as Green Bay as putting any points up on the second half there, and I was kind of riding high and picking those New York teams kind of pretty consistently on my picks. I went away from them last week and they both bit me. Yeah, the New York Giants, they were 10-point underdogs going into this one. You get a decent enough game from Daniel Jones there, 217. Seems like quads again. He's probably going to be one of your main guys that you're looking toward in this offense. Did all right, nothing too staggering as far as his numbers, but able to put a touchdown up there, and without really any weapons. I mean, Darius Slayton was able to like step in, but this is a New York team, as we were saying going into this. They didn't have any weapons coming in, so it was looking like it was going to be very tough for the production to happen. Daniel Jones, yeah, was able to complete to quite a myriad of receivers, multiple receptions for a lot of them, so pretty impressive stuff. On the other side, I mean, this is a Green Bay Packer team that, again, you're talking Rodgers, talking Jones, Dillon, a wide receiver core that needs to start getting it figured out. But this offense is surprisingly not good. They don't put it up like they need to.
This Green Bay loss to me is all on coaching. 100%. You are up 20-3. You are running the ball very well. There is no reason this game ends with Rodgers throwing the ball 40 times. Get the ball in Jones and Dillon's hands. Let them slowly and just let them grind this game out. They ran for a 4.8 and 5.7 average. They didn't even run for half of the amount of attempts that Rodgers threw for. Again, I'd like to remind you, they were up 20-3. It doesn't need to be Rodgers' ball at that point.
I think 17-3 was the most they were up by in this game.
17-3. Thank you. 17-3.
But yeah. Points still stand.
Slow this thing down. Get the ball in Jones's hand. Get the ball in Dylan's hands. Let them run. Let them eat yards. Let them go, go, go. They were getting the chunk plays that you need to just really do something a little bit different than Rodgers' ball. Listen, Rodgers, you're great. You do your thing, but we're going to give you a bit of a week off here. We're going to let Jones and Dylan carry this thing, grind out this game, and win it. Yeah. Instead, it turns into Rodgers' ball in the second half, and I just don't get it. It was unnecessary.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because, this game was 17-3, and toward the end of the first half, Giants are able to punch in a touchdown on a pretty nice drive.
Yeah.
Green Bay's kind of able to answer a little bit, get the field goal right at the end of that.
Yeah.
Third quarter opens up, and you get a pretty sustained drive from the Giants. You get almost the same amount of time, a couple minutes less, I guess, but a decent sustained drive, 7 plays, 46 yards, but you punt it as Green Bay. New York then gets the ball back, does an 8-minute, 15-play drive for a touchdown. After that initial field goal and having to punt it back to them, you now have a tie game all of a sudden, and a long-ass drive in the beginning of the fourth quarter to start it off. You go 3 and out right after that, and it, like, momentum-wise, it was just all sucked out. Oddly enough, after kicking a field goal, it's like to end that first half. Yeah, second half, you just kind of got these sustained drives hitting you time and time again. And when you're talking about New York, and they go field goal, touchdown for their first 3 drives of the second half, it was a surprising momentum shift. I gotta say, there's something about New York right now. They're probably the least glamorous 4-1 team you've ever seen, sort of thing. A lot of, obviously that record's surprising a lot of people. Talent-wise, you just don't think that they're right there. There's something to be said about them. They're playing for Dable right now, I feel. Like, they like that dude. They're playing for him. It's a gritty-ass team, and it seems like they're able to feed off momentum in a way to where they've been able to pick up wins with all right games. Like this I would say most of the time, like, especially against the Pack, you should never have even been a question. 17-3. But yeah, they're able to really just, I don't know, they swung that energy in their favor, and they just constantly put the hammer down. And then turnover on downs in a 14-play drive for the Pack late in that fourth quarter. Yeah, just absolute backbreakers. Like, it really felt like the Giants were the better team by the end of it. It just felt that way. As much as on paper, it shouldn't feel that way.
You know what it is? And it shouldn't be a shocking thing for an NFL team. But fucking this year it is. The Giants are just really well coached. Dabble's got this team playing the right way. Listen, just don't do anything stupid. We have this quarterback. Is he the greatest quarterback in the world? No. But he does some things well that we can use. He's got good legs. He's got decent accuracy in the short and medium. As long as we don't have him throw the ball 15 yards down the field plus, right? If we keep him in that short and medium range, he's pretty accurate. We saw it in this game, 21-27, right? Like, the yards don't pop off the screen at you, but he was hitting his dudes. He moves well with his feet. He does a lot of good things that helps us get away from a line that's got some holes on it and a little bit of question marks. We can help that line by moving the quarterback around a little bit, shifting that pocket, right? No. Do we have a great wide receiver out there today? No, all of ours are hurt. but we have a bunch of dudes who we trust to catch the ball. So let's just get it to them where they can catch it, right? Don't do anything spectacular. We got Slayton, he can make a couple big plays, but beyond that, get them the ball, keep it simple. Let's just keep everything simple and let the Packers self-destruct in front of us. They're doing it. Let's not help them right the ship. Let them keep self-destructing, right? It sounds so simple, right? That, hey, maybe just do the easy things, right? Do the things that your team can do. But there's so many coaches in the league this year who just can't seem to do that. That's why the Giants are winning. Dabble doesn't have the same talent as the teams he seems to be playing, but his team plays the right way. They play to their strengths and their best way to win the game. And he just lets the teams around them kind of blow up.
And you know what?
Will it work come the playoffs? No, but it will probably get the Giants there.
I mean, it's not like teams are opposed to choking in the playoffs. I mean, that happens. But,
No, that's true too.
But yeah, I mean, that's a great point. If you're able to, like, 17-3, that's starting to get on the brink of it, right? But not quite. It's only a couple scores, a couple possessions. Really just takes one possession, you're right back in it. That's pretty much what this kind of came down to.
Exactly.
Packers weren't able to put their foot down enough separation and kept the door open. All of a sudden, you get that one possession, you get that touchdown. Hey, we're right there, and you get all the belief on your team to be able to do it. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of teams to where you really put the pressure on them, and coaching, players, the combination, that sort of thing. A lot of teams will make a mistake for you, and it's not a big one sometimes. It's literally like, a linebacker step here, step there, half second late on a hitch or something like that, a little slip. It's just like, and if you're able to, pop in and have a team that's able to take advantage of those, and I think while taking advantage of that, you have to have some things going for you as far as like players, that sort of thing. I think he's done a decent enough job. Exactly. Keep Danny Jones from going too crazy with the ball. Don't put that situation on him. You're very, right now, this team's a different team though. When you're talking about Saquon Barkley, I have to admit, I picked him in fantasy for our league. I was very worried about how this season was going to go right now for him. 5 games in, going into the 6th, I mean, it's not super vintage Barkley, but he's getting that nice little screens out of the backfield. Again, helping out your quarterback, really opening up defenses. If they're trying to close in on the quarterback and you're hitting quads for a 40-yard screen dump off, basically, you take those all day, every day. And you make those defenses start to question it. Now we got to cover the shallow. Well, that's going to open up the middle for you. It's a nice little recipe that they have going, and they're going to be able to pick up wins. I agree. Right now, I mean, you're talking to the top teams in the NFC as far as records concerned right here. I would not have thought it going in, but I mean, very, very good potential for 2 NFC East teams to be able to make a playoff appearance. And
3 NFC East teams.
I suppose you're right. Yeah.
Right, because you got the Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants.
Yeah, can't write off the Cowboys. Can't write off the Cowboys. You're not wrong.
All of whom are right there in that playoff race, right? Like it's wild to me, but the Giants just doing simple things right now. Yeah. And I love they really started to incorporate some read option in this game. I thought it worked really well to keep the Packers safeties kind of back on their back feet a little bit, keep them honest. It really helped to kind of freeze some guys for a couple seconds. It's simple things that end up winning you games in the long term, right? Especially when you don't have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, somebody who can just make something out of nothing, right? Yeah. The Giants don't have that in Daniel Jones. What they do have is a well-schemed offense that, in that situation, Daniel Jones can succeed, right? And we were just talking about Justin Fields earlier about how bad he looks and how something looks like it's not really fitting. Daniel Jones is kind of starting to fit in what New York's doing, right? Like, it just... it seems to work well for him there.
Yeah, there's always Daniel Jones has been an interesting quarterback because I would have said I want to say second year there it was looking really really bad at the end of the season and it was like are we gonna move on and I think the offseason just like nothing really came about and all of a sudden you're just like I guess we're going with Daniel Jones again and a little injuries and stuff here and there but yeah it doesn't seem like a bad fit at this point and again you're talking about how many quarterbacks you got out there. Daniel Jones is showing that yeah, he's he's one of those guys right now. As far as I can't see him losing the starting job here anytime soon. I got to figure bring him back in. I know his contract was a little bit of a question mark at the end of this or end of last season. So
Who are you going to get right now is better,
right,
right? Like, you're right. We've talked about it before. There's maybe 17, 18 to 20 real quality starting quarterbacks in the NFL. The rest of the teams are kind of making do with what they have. Fringe starters, backups who are forced to be starters, yada yada yada. Uh, I can't imagine, you know, the quarterback talent in this draft class is really strong, but it's very top heavy as well, right? I can't imagine the Giants are at a point where they're going to feel it necessary to reach for one of the secondary guys when if Jones continues to play like this.
yeah, yeah.
Bring in talent around him. Let's keep scheming this thing to make it work for him.
I mean, you need to address some things. Obviously, the lack of depth right now you have for targets for the guy is a problem.
Yeah.
And then of course you just need to get better in the trenches.
Yeah.
That's the main thing as well. Basically.
Offensive line is a big concern for them that I think they need to fix, right? Like it all the RPO moving the pocket around, it's doing a great job of masking it,
Yeah.
but it's still there. And you still see it every now and again,
Yeah.
right? Every couple plays you go, "Oh, that was a bad missed block and that guy just got through untouched." And it's like those things can't be happening consistently.
And are you going to want to throw a rookie quarterback to that? A rookie quarterback that is going through that right now. Our boy Kenny Pickett, the Pittsburgh Steelers, last week going against the Buffalo Bills. And that Buffalo team kind of beat the brakes off them. Kenny Pickett had to throw the ball 52 times this game. I know you want to get the kid warm. I know you want to get him that warm, yo. I think you need to simmer it down a little bit. A little bit.
100%. But I thought, given the situation he was in, I thought he played a pretty damn solid game. The interception was a bad one.
Yeah.
It's his first bad interception of the year, whatever. He had a couple really awful drops from Chase Claypool in that game. Deontay Johnson had one, too, that was just horrendous.
Yeah.
No running game to speak of whatsoever to help him.
It's crazy.
I thought, given the situation, it's your first career start against one of the best teams in the NFL. You're getting the brakes beaten off of you. He played that game about as well as I could have asked him to be honest with you.
You're just not helping him, I think, in a situation like that. I think he did fine, but yeah, exactly. Like, you worry about him. I mean, he didn't get blown up, luckily, too much. I think, just a couple sacks and luckily taken. But yeah, this is going to be a tough game, no matter how you write it. And the Steelers came out of this game beat up. They only got injured left and right throughout this game. Freiermuth with a concussion, I believe. I think you have at least 2 or 3 secondary players that went down this game and are not going to be available for their next game. So that defense that could kind of help you out potentially is now all sorts of beat up. And then, guys that you're targeting quite a lot in a Deontay Johnson, a Chase Claypool. Taking away some of those easy ones from you. You could have had even better, numbers. 34, 52. Like, that's, not a terrible completion percentage by any means. And, a good amount of yards, obviously, to go with that. But on the other side, I mean, that Buffalo Bills team is just moving that ball with some incredible efficiency. And yeah, end of the first half, 31-3, they pretty much just, all right, we're just going to, we'll just play this slow for the rest of the game. And so they did. They they didn't really need to do anything in that second half. Made it pretty easy on them.
They have lost TJ Watt.
Right.
That's going to hurt any defense,
Right.
obviously. But you had Minka Fitzpatrick until about midway through the second half, I think, is when he gets hurt. Uh, you had a couple cornerbacks go down throughout the game. This is the most expensive defense in the NFL. No team has spent more of their cap room than the Pittsburgh Steelers have on defense. That's unacceptable. Like, if you're paying that much money for defense, it's got to be held together by more than one or two guys. Like, TJ Watt leaves this defense and all of a sudden it's useless? That can't be the case when you're paying as much money as the Steelers are for that defense. They need to legitimately consider overhauling this defense. You pick your guys who you think can actually help, the rest of them got to go. Cuz this can't be the case when you're paying that much money for defensive talent.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a. You knew it was going to be pretty tough, like, as far as. Because their quarterback situation, obviously, like, you got Mitch. You had. Oh, God. Who was the. God, I'm trying to think of the quarterback last year for Pittsburgh that was still on the team. Um,
Uh oh no. How am I blanking on this too? Uh um the
look,
Commanders guy. Um Football team guy.
just completely forgetting his name.
This is bad.
Mason Rudolph. There we go.
Mason
That's who
Rudolph.
I was thinking of.
They also had the Washington Commanders guy there who got cut and came in and was the quarterback for them for a little bit as well.
Oh yeah, no, not obviously Heineke, but
No, no,
that's
no.
the only other guy I'm thinking for the Commanders.
The
But
one
regardless,
who
basically my
has
point.
Dewey Haskins.
Oh yeah, dude. Okay, that's right. But yeah, no, it's just the point being that like just given that, I think you can kind of see the writing on the wall, even though it has nothing to do with the defense. Like if a quarterback is that, or if a team is like really that much of a shuffle at quarterback, to where you're not too sure like any three guys, I think that's almost a precursor for this team not to be like. Even though it has nothing to do with those other positions, it's just like it feels like if you're that unsettled in that position to where you're bringing in Trubisky, you had a Rudolph, like, or how much more of an upgrade do you think that is? And then in the end, you just put in Pickett anyways, the guy you just drafted. So it's like it's just a
He should have
mess.
just started with Kenny Pickett.
It's just a mess, dude. I just like,
Like,
yeah,
did they really expect anything other than what they got from Mitch Trubisky?
yeah,
Like, how often would we say it in the offseason? Who does Trubisky have the dirt on? Like, everybody keeps forgetting who he is. Man, Mitch Trubisky, though, go the right situation. He can. No. No, no, no. He's just shit. Give up on Mitch Trubisky. I don't care that he's 6'5" and white. He sucks. There's somebody better. I promise.
yeah. I mean, only other thing I guess on the other side of the ball. I mean, obviously, yeah, stellar game. Um, See out of Allen, of course, was able to tear this secondary apart. Um, a little interesting as I feel like yeah they have Cook coming back. They got Singletary, that sort of thing. We've talked about their lack of running game and how I feel like it's eventually going to bite him in the ass. They had a little bit more success in this. They actually tried a little bit with him. Still would like to see potentially um, their carries continue to rise. Then of course Gabe Davis had two phenomenal touchdown grabs in that game. Um, yeah, nothing you can really say about Buffalo. This is kind of who we thought they were. They're looking every bit as strong as to be expected uh,
I will say I'll be
this
interested
season.
to see if they keep using Khalil Shakir like they have been recently. He's been kind of the he's been kind of sneaking into their play usage more and more. Rookie out of Boise State. I know in the offseason I had heard rumors that like they really like what he does as a route runner. Didn't really see much of the field at all the first 3 or so weeks. Got a couple of big catches against Baltimore. Does it again. Gets his first career touchdown in this game. Shouts out to him. But just overall, it feels like every time he's touching the ball recently, it's a big play for the Bills. Be interested to see if they keep incorporating him a little bit. If they could get a third option like that, we talked about it a lot with Cincinnati last year. How important it was that they had Chase, Higgins, and Boyd to really just spread out the field. If Shakir can be that guy with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, this Bills offense could be really scary.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's keep it moving though. Let's get on to the next game. A nice little back and forth, pretty crazy game ended up being down in Cleveland. Los Angeles Chargers going in, able to take the win, 30-28. This game started out with a quick 14-point lead for the Browns. Chargers able to come back, and then it just kind of traded back and forth a little bit. And then it just ended on some defensive stops. Defenses on both sides kind of making it a tight one. And yeah, Chargers able to get, this has been a really tough season for them so far to start. And they get out of here with a win, but a little, still a little uncertain. You finally get a little, get an Austin game. Awesome game out of Austin
Yes.
Eckler. Awesome Austin there. Huge numbers on the ground, adding a nice little reception touchdown in there as well with the rushing touchdown and all those yards. So pretty nice from him.
Yeah. Another team that seems to be just being absolutely held back by coaching, man. Brandon Staley. There's so much talent on this Chargers team. Just boatloads of it. You got Eckler, you got Mike Williams, you got Gerald Everett, you have Justin Herbert at quarterback who knows what he's doing. There's so much talent there. Can we please get someone who can fucking game plan an offense in this team? There's gotta be better coaches out there. Brian Flores didn't get hired. There has got to be better coaches out there than what we have in the NFL right now, because like the job Brandon Staley's doing, and we'll talk about McDaniels in a bit,
Oh,
and
we'll talk about McDaniels.
it's just like there's gotta be better coaches out there, man, because this Chargers team should be so much better, and they're just mid. They're bang average. The play calling is atrocious at times. There's no way the Browns should be able to hang with this team, especially not with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Just no way. And
I
yet, here we are, talking about a back and forth game, right down the wire. Snuck out a win. Good job, boys. And it's like Brandon Staley saves his job for another year. And we have to deal with this again next year with the Chargers. And I just wonder how long this middling of this very talented Chargers team is going to be allowed to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like this Browns team's been surprising.
Crappy.
I mean, Jacoby Brissett, he's playing above expected, I feel, for sure, throughout this year. They're obviously, this team is built around running that rock, and almost no better right now, it looks like, to do so than Nick Chubb. You have an
Oh,
awesome
yes.
spell in Kareem Hunt as well in the squad. Um, Even a guy like Amari Cooper being a little bit more than I was kind of surprised. I kind of thought he fell off a little bit. I think you know, not bad of a situation, or not bad from him so far, given the situation of you know, they don't have a super potent passing offense, but yeah, you're getting enough out of Brissett in that regard, and I think the most shocking thing, honestly, in this game, because I kind of liked him from what I saw out of him, and this game could have been easily theirs if Cade Yark doesn't miss 2 field goals in this game.
Yeah, rough day for Cade.
Yeah,
Um,
that's tough. I mean, in a game you lose by 2, uh, that's 6. So if you just get one of those, that's the dub right there. So that's surprising. But this Chargers team, yeah, absolutely. I can't not agree with you in that they're playing under. As much as it's, it was surprising, and I think Cleveland's playing better than we expected. Brissett's playing better than expected. It's every bit as much of that as it is the Chargers. That team is playing worse than expected. Obviously, Bosa being hurt has really rocked this team. They don't look a shell of themselves without him. And obviously, on a run-heavy game like this, it would have been interesting to see them at a little bit better strength. But, it's like, even now, week 5, week 6 of the NFL, everybody's a little dinged up. You gotta figure it out. Basically, you gotta figure it out. That's you're happy you scrape by with a win. You keep yourselves above 500. But yeah, sustainable, not really.
no, this is a team that strives for more than that too, right? Like, there's no way the Chargers here are looking at their first 5 games and going, "Hey, we're above 500. We're in that mix." There's no way that was the Chargers' ambitions coming into this season. I think they looked at themselves as legitimate threats to topple the Chiefs in the AFC West, legitimate Super Bowl threat, and they just don't look anything like it. As for the Browns, I mean, yeah, they're playing all right. Strength of their schedule has been not great, right? You look at their schedule so far: Panthers, Jets, Steelers, Falcons, Chargers. That's
Yeah.
we'll see what they do against some legitimate opposition. As far as, are they a scrappy team that gets by, or are they just a team that has played some really bad teams so far?
I don't see. I don't know, man. Like it's kind of it's funny. I think we are. I think we're prisoners of maybe not even of the moment. Sometimes we're prisoners of the past. I mean, I don't know if Bob Sala and the Jets have anything to say about it. They're like, hey, we're a fucking good team. I don't know what you're talking about.
We'll talk about the Jets.
We'll talk about the Jets. We will. But yeah, no, this is it's kind of like you take the win. These are always interesting ones because I think it's not a great look that you barely come out of this with a dub, right? You still come out of it with a win, and you have that weird win to where it's like it's a win that is there's probably a lot of like teachable moments, a lot of stuff to learn in this game. A lot of mistakes were made, and so you hope there's some growth still be done. Like it's a lot of game tape to be watched, I guess, is kind of my thought process. Like, you barely got out of that. We got to work our asses off so we don't just scrape by in this game. That's something you could take maybe from a coaching mentality. We'll see how it turns out for them going forward. As we move forward, let's hit into the next one. We already talked about this team a bit, so we can maybe just touch upon maybe the winning side of it. Chicago Bears going into Minnesota last weekend in a game they were favored by 8.5, -8.5 at the end of it. Win by 7, 22-29. Minnesota's able to take it. Kind of one that they had at the very beginning. Chicago able to really claw their way entirely back, actually ending up taking a lead about halfway or so through the fourth quarter. Minnesota able to respond and shut it down from there. But yeah, a game that was looking like it was going to be a pretty runaway one for Minnesota, and an interesting scrappy comeback from Chicago on this one.
Yeah, the Vikings are very similar to me as the Dallas Cowboys in that they're both 4-1, and I have no fucking idea if they're good or not. Um, I- they win. Congratulations, you beat the Bears, but like Justin Fields threw for 208 yards on you. That's one of the scariest things in and of itself. Um, this team would be dead without Justin Jefferson. Uh, I just don't know what I. Their defense is pretty good. I think they got some players on defense. That Cameron Dantzler strip at the end of the game was disgusting. Um, I just don't know what to make of the Vikings. I really don't. Uh, Now the thing about that is I don't know what to make of the Vikings as far as how good they are, or if they're even good. That probably means they're the best team in the NFC North this year because it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, uh, nothing about Green Bay's played. Obviously, their record doesn't speak to them being the best right now. Minnesota's always been on the side of good rather than bad for most seasons as of recently, especially in the Kirk Cousins era. Kirk Cousins era. There we go. Um, the Yeah, I mean Justin Jefferson. It's he's pulling away as one of the premier receivers. Obviously, I think Dalvin Cook. Obviously, I mean you're not going to get a lot done without him
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I think we both like Madison as his spell, but unfortunately, I think he got dinged up. He's been dinged up this season, but I think he got hurt that last game as well. I think it's questionable going into their next one. Um, yeah, I don't know. This one is surprising. They just had this gap basically from about middle or so of that second quarter through to the middle of the fourth, basically, to where they just uh, couldn't get anything done. The things they could get done, they set up, I believe, Greg Joseph for some field goals that he uncharacteristically misses two himself. So another kind of strange kicking game from, I think someone we like as far as kickers are concerned. Would have never this game wouldn't have been a question actually if he puts one of those through. Chicago would never had the lead. I mean,
Second
game
time,
in question, but
second time in 3 weeks for Greg Joseph going 0 for 2 in a game. He did it
yeah,
against the Lions as well a couple weeks ago.
yeah. So
That's a bit of a concerning trend, I think, for the Vikings because he has been very consistent for them. But
yeah, I mean, like I don't think this is quite the same as the Colts got rid of their guy right earlier
yeah,
this season.
Blankenship.
Yeah. And with Rodrigo, it was like I think it was like multiple misses in very clutch games, like that sort of
Yeah,
thing. And he hadn't been around that long. Yeah, Greg Joseph though is much more of a known name. I would figure they're gonna give him a little bit longer of a leash. But yeah, that's it's not great to see. I mean, but see if he's able to kind of right the ship in that regard. And yeah, I think Minnesota right now. I don't see any reason that they don't just kind of stay on top of this NFC North. No reason really not to.
they're definitely at the moment looking like the best team of a bad bunch. It's certainly not the Bears. Maybe if the Lions get healthy, they can pull out a couple of games, but not nearly enough to challenge them. And I don't trust the Packers to do anything right, to be honest with you right now. So probably.
Yeah, yeah. Let's actually, let's move right
Yeah.
into those Lions. Actually, another NFC North team. Unfortunately, last weekend going into New England, and for the league's best offense, putting up the offer, getting completely shut out by the Pats and Zappy. 29-0. A very surprising, lopsided game, I would say. I think we both expected a little bit more out of Detroit on this one. They just didn't look good from really top to bottom. Um, Defense has been getting beat up, and when the third string quarterback is able to put down multiple scoring drives in the first half, and you're just not able to respond with anything. Yeah, this game was it's pretty rough, and I know obviously uh, MCDC said this is the rock bottom right now for this team. They can only go up from here, so kind of speaks enough to how this went for Detroit.
With Mac Jones coming back soon, is his job in trouble?
Hmm.
He has not looked good to start this season, and we've mentioned it a few times. He does not look like the same guy he did last year. Bailey Zappi was given a very limited playbook this week. That was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
He looked good doing it, though. Like, he looked
Enough.
solid, given given the fact that he was clearly quite handcuffed. They let it be known from the start. Listen, you're giving the ball to Ramondre Stevenson a lot.
Yeah.
All of your plays are going to be very simple. You're running about 10 to 15 pass plays. That's it. Like, there's no fancy schemes in here. You're definitely not throwing the ball much. Your playbook is very small. And despite the fact that they handcuffed him a great deal, he looked strong. He
Enough. Yeah. Enough.
Ramondre obviously carries this team, and we'll talk about him in a second because I think Ramondre Stevenson's an absolute beast and doesn't get enough love. But I really like what Bailey Zappi did given the situation he was in. And if he can do that again this week against the Browns, because I don't think Mac Jones is back for this one.
No.
If Mac Jones is healthy next week, can you afford to go away from Zappi?
I mean, that's just it. I think when you have a situation, I think this is you're not parallel by as far as how the team feels and that sort of thing, but um, Dallas is in a similar set, right? You got Dak coming back eventually, but you have the guy who's stepping in Cooper Rush, who's playing well, and I think you're getting enough of that from Zappi right now. I don't see why not. I think also you got to consider is if bringing him back too soon. You don't want to get the guy re-injured. And really, you take a look at this, and it's just like, all right, we're going to be probably a run first team. We need a quarterback that's able to convert, well enough to pick up some first downs when needed. And if we kept getting fucking Matthew Judon to keep ripping off the edge, got a couple sacks, forced the fumble in this game for the strip sack fumble against Goff to get them their first touchdown. I don't see why you wouldn't keep Zappi in there until really sure that you want to have Mac Jones come back. Now, I wouldn't say you put this is more than a couple weeks sort of thing if Jones is healthy, but I mean, I don't think we're at the classic backups gonna come in for the injured starter and completely take over situation. I don't think we're there. Not yet.
Not yet, but
Nobody ever would have thought Steve Young would take over Joe Montana, but
let's not forget, Belichick was the star. Not Belichick. Bledsoe was the starter until he went down, and then a certain Thomas took over, a seventh-round draft pick out of Michigan, who
but that kind
ended
of
up having a pretty okay career for himself.
But that kind of speaks to it too, in a way, is that you bring up Belichick. Would Belichick be the kind of guy that would do that? Oh, absolutely.
100%.
We've seen
He
that.
did it before.
We've seen that. Just like Bill Walsh was willing to do so for the Niners. There's there's some parallels there for sure. Will it happen? I don't think quite yet. I don't think you want to get too damn excited about it. This game was this is kind of an outlier. I don't think you ever expect to completely shut out the opposition. The Lions did not play well in this game. So you got to kind of gauge it a little bit with that. You can't get too excited about this. But the kid's doing it right now. So I don't see why not. I don't see why you don't at least play him for the extra, like, one game, maybe.
I just I saw a lot of things out of Bailey Zappi in that game that I was really impressed by.
Right.
Again, considering the fact that that playbook was likely shrunken down to a book that's about yay big. Here's 15 pass plays
Right.
for you.
Right.
The rest of them are you just handed off to Ramondre,
Yeah.
who is an absolute beast. Fucking love Ramondre Stevenson. I had him in fantasy last year. Was awesome. This is a guy who is just a workload dude. Uh, kind of sleeper pick in 2021 out of Oklahoma. And they had Damian Harris that they really liked, and Ramondre Stevens was just supposed to be a spellback. He was the number 2 guy. He's gonna kind of help work some things off with Damian Harris, and he just kept getting better and better and better. And right now, if you ask me, Ramondre Stevenson, like the carry show that they obviously agree with me on this, but Ramondre Stevenson's the dude there. Like that guy, capable of going off at any moment. Uh, and not a guy who is. There's some running backs who you stuff them a few times and it gets in their head. They're just done, right? You see those guys who consistently have the 17 for 90 game one week and then the 17 for 46 game the next week because you stuff them a couple. Ramondre Stevenson's not that guy. He's going to keep running into you until he finds a hole. And I really love what he's doing for the Patriots right now. I think, again, you got a quarterback situation right now that's a little bit weird. Mac Jones did not start off the season well. You have a third string guy come in. He's playing well. Maybe he's the kind of guy who can help transition both of them into whatever this next stage of this Patriots offense looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's potential there for sure. Yeah. Anything else you want to hit on this for this game, or keep it going here?
Uh, Jared Goff, man, looking like prime Jared Goff in this one. Just mwah, vintage Jared Goff.
That's a tough
They were
one.
missing. They were missing so many. Like I know Amon-Ra St. Brown was technically back, but he was clearly very limited in what they actually allowed him to do.
Right.
Uh, I think for this Lions offense, this is not going to be the standard going forward. I think this is just we talked about it. They were missing like 5 wide receivers due to injury, and one of those 5 ended up playing limited snaps. We'll give it a couple weeks before we start panicking on the Lions offense, I think.
Yeah. I think it's. I don't think the ceiling's quite as crazy as we were seeing early on, but I don't think the floor is 0 points a game every
Yeah.
week, right?
Yeah.
So they'll find their place, I think, a little bit in the morning. I think they kind of need to be a little bit more middling. They got to find it, obviously, on defense, too. Really,
Yes.
they got to figure it out on that side of the ball because they aren't going to, no matter, it's too volatile to expect to be having to put up 30-plus point games to even have a chance of winning, right? That's just not going to happen. Here's a situation where you will probably, just because your defense might be so bad. Maybe on one side more than the other. Let's go on to the next game. Seattle going into New Orleans to face off against the Saints. This game ended 39-32. Quite a surprising offensive output, I would say. I feel like we maybe have New Orleans defense rated a little better than giving up 32 points to the Geno Smith-led Seahawks. But, yeah, we kind of knew the Seahawks were beat up. This was a crazy game. Okay, so Geno Smith, pretty good numbers-wise, 3 touchdowns. You saw a nice little emergence from Kenneth Walker, actually, for the Seahawks as well. Lockett and Metcalf getting theirs. On the other side, it's the Taysom Hill show again. All of a sudden, for this
Fucking Taysom.
for this New Orleans Saints team. He's passing
Let's
the ball.
go.
He's running the ball. He's not catching the ball oddly enough as a tight end, but who gives a shit when you're rushing 9 for 112 and
112 and three
three
tutties.
tutties? Plus, you pass one for one for a tutty. Like, and we've talked about this before. The experiment of trying to use him as a traditional backup quarterback that you just throw in there and put under center, no, stop it. You gadget this guy. You get him in weird fucking situations. And yeah, why couldn't this is an awesome layer to add to your offense. I think if it would be criminal if you got back a Jameis from like week 1 of this season that was looking a little bit sharper, a little bit more on point. You gotta keep this layer in there always. You always have to threaten it because it got it. You have to drive defense. It's fucking crazy when you're doing that sort of thing effectively.
Taysom should only be on the field for like 15 to 20 plays a game. And half of them, he's not even going to see the ball.
But those 10.
Whew. Those times that he gets the ball in his hands, you can see what they saw with games like this, right? It's like, holy shit, he is electric. The arm is shockingly good. That touchdown pass wasn't like oh god, we faked them all out and I looped some lame duck to somebody. He threw a dart 22 yards down the field into his guy's arms for a touchdown. He's got speed. He's got vision. He's big. He's hard to tackle. Fucking hell yeah, you gotta keep Taysom Hill around.
Well, yeah, and you gotta keep him involved too. Keep him in the play. I mean, and he's returning kicks for you too. Like it's hilarious, man. Like you're getting 23 average. You get 23-yard average returns from him. You got 3 returns for you. You're getting 12 and a half on the ground per carry, and you're getting 22 a throw. The offense dynamic situation here is just incredible. It's fun to see.
I expect Taysom Hill to finish this season with 10 rushing touchdowns, 10 passing touchdowns, 10 receiving touchdowns. Yeah. He'll do it all. He'll throw a kick return touchdown in there too.
On the other side, I mean, hell, I did not expect this to be anything remotely of a close game. Seattle, Geno Smith. I think we've brought up Geno before. He's obviously he's playing above above your average thought of what he'd be playing as. Rashad Penny unfortunately getting dinged up in this game, but Kenneth Walker stepping up really nice. Obviously the huge 69-yard runner there, but that's going to be a guy that you're going to be leaning on in these coming weeks, I'm sure. And you would hope that you're able to get some balls out to Metcalf and Lockett there. And they're having the kind of contribution. So as much as I don't think this is a good Seattle team, good things you can take away, I suppose, from them. Their defense is never going to help them, though, to win any game. So
I will say with Kenneth Walker, and I'll throw this out there because I think it's really worth noting about his college career and kind of his start in the NFL, because I know a lot of people have been a little bit like, what's happened to him?
Yeah.
His first 2 years, he was a redshirt freshman. His first 2 years playing were at Wake Forest. He was kind of featured in a 3-back system Wake Forest had. His numbers were okay. Ran for 579 yards each of the 2 seasons and about 90 attempts, so the average was good. 4 touchdowns the 1 year, 10 the next. His numbers were okay. He moved to Michigan State that season. Had 263 attempts for 1,700 yards and 19 touchdowns. This is a guy who the more you put the ball in his hands, the better he runs. To start this season, he has very much been in a 2-system back. He's the complementary back to Rashad Penny, and he's looked out of place doing it. I think this could be the chance for Kenneth Walker to really break out as the guy, nobody else there. You're not somebody's sidekick. You're not the spellback. You're not a two-back system. This is your system. That's always where Kenneth Walker has shined in his college career. I look for him to maybe continue to do that in the coming weeks for Seattle.
I think so. It that's an interesting point. Definitely an interesting stat spread from his college years, and you got to find it. Why the hell wouldn't you give this guy some looks? Um, where are you going otherwise right now? And yeah, Rashad Penny, I think he might be
IR.
okay. It is IR. All right. So yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. He's gonna get a shot. Um, let's go with a guy who's come back off an injury himself and now getting a shot. Our favorite MILF hunter, Zach Wilson, 40
You
to
said again.
17 against the Miami Dolphins at home. This game, the 40, it's a little deceiving because they really
It's
racked it up toward the end of this
yeah.
game. It was actually a pretty nice
It was a
contest.
tight game against Skylar Thompson for a while
It was
there.
a tight contest, but yeah, you start getting it from Carter and Hall, the two Jets backs there getting a touchdown apiece, and yeah, just enough. No one's getting blown out of the water from the 14 and 21 for 210 from Zach Wilson there, but you're getting some carries to Brees Hall, which I think we both love to see.
Oh,
Get the rook some
finally.
carries, and you get him a couple targets too. And what's he doing? He's getting you 100 yards and 2 catches. So nothing too shabby there. Couldn't get the other rookie Wilson involved as much in the passing game, but I mean, this is you gotta like having a 40 to 17 win in a division game, no matter who you're facing off against. Obviously, as we've all been keeping track of, Miami in a tough situation. They lost Bridgewater after one play in this game, I believe. They are going to be looking at those protocols and um, you know whether people feel it was appropriate or not. Bridgewater gets pulled. Thompson has to step right in. And all right, hey, as much as you could ask from a guy that's really, really kind of thrown into a situation that 2, 3 weeks ago, you're not expecting it. So hats off to that. And then only other thing I'll bring up, our boy Raheem Mostert, dinged up, and as much as any back ever has been. Quite injured. Love to see it from former Niner. Yeah, he was the workhorse for this offense, and it was looking like might be the factor to get Miami the win here into the third quarter. Fourth quarter had something else to say about it though, and Jets put the foot down.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of Skylar Thompson. To be honest with you, I didn't like him when he was at Kansas State. I thought he was just kind of meh. I was shocked that the Dolphins ended up picking him up in that draft. I think it was in the 7th round. Uh, I thought he was going to be one of those guys who goes undrafted and finds a practice squad through workouts, but Dolphins saw enough in him to take a chance. It was all right, but I think what you saw to Skylar Thompson there, like this isn't the kind of thing where Dolphins fans can be like, okay, maybe Skylar Thompson. No, this is Skylar Thompson's ceiling. Like those numbers, they're you're like, oh, they don't really pop off, but it's his first game. You'll see a dozen games like that at Kansas State for him. He was always a guy who was a bit of a roller coaster ride at Kansas State. I wouldn't think too much about Skylar Thompson going forward. This is just a guy who's going to fill up a roster spot, be a third quarterback, can pop in if you need him, and won't completely embarrass himself. But for Brees Hall, I love seeing them start to incorporate him more because it's worth noting that at Iowa State, I think he had 9 touchdowns as receiving to go along with. I think he ended up with 48 rushing touchdowns and then 9 receiving touchdowns. He was a guy who Iowa State would just find ways to get the ball in his hands and he'd make things happen. Felt like the Jets started to do that a little bit in this game. Keep doing that. Michael Carter's a really good, like, I'm close to the goal line. Give the ball to Michael Carter, and he's going to move everybody forward. And we're going to score a touchdown. But he's not a guy who you really want to be using as much between the 20s. I think he's shown that this year that he struggles a little bit at creating space. even in this game, his 10 yards or his 10 carries only go for 21 yards, right? Like he's not a yards guy. He's a in tight spaces, he's going to eat up those almost like an old school fullback style, right? Uh, if you need a yard and a half out of Michael Carter, you're going to get a yard and a half out of Michael Carter. You need 10 yards out of Michael Carter, you're going to get a yard and a half out of Michael Carter. Uh, but that's not a bad thing to have in compliment to Breece Hall, who is definitely not that guy. Breece is elusive, he's sneaky, but if you wrap him up, he's going down. He's not a breaking tackles guy very often. So I think he is a good compliment to him. I like the fact that they started to get the ball into Breece's hands a little bit more. Keep doing that. I think the Jets will be relatively fine because their defense is actually quite good.
It's, I think yeah, the two back system. I think this is one that could work very well with Carter and
Yeah,
Hall. Yeah, like you said, complementary pieces. It'll be nice. Like you have the ability to, through their different use cases, keep them fresh as well. That's always
yeah,
nice to have. Um, I think their receiving core. I think you have some good pieces there. You've added another one. You know we always got to bring up Uzama. I hope he
get my man
continues
the
to get
ball.
some luck. Yeah, give him some looks. We'll see about that going forward. And yeah, exactly. I think I love this. This team has a pretty decent front four. I feel
Yeah,
as far as on defense is concerned. Um, Definitely a good linebacker too. And then yeah, surprising DB strength, and obviously everybody, I think we already brought up a couple of the rookies there, but uh, potentially their best rookie so far, Sauce Gardner has been
oh,
absolute
he's been
stud for
unreal.
him. So yeah, you gotta love what you've been seeing out of this team. And 3-2, they've gotten some opponents that they're able to take advantage of that on, but uh, you know to run away with this one 40-17, did not see that coming. Um, it was a nice little win for him, even though against the third stringer and
Yeah,
Skyler there.
I will say that Jets 3-2. They're very much a benefactor of fate. Uh, the Ravens and Bengals losses, I think, are more realistic to where they actually are as far as their development goes. They didn't get blown out in them by any stretch.
Right.
Their defense was able to keep them in the game, but they
Yeah.
just could not put up points against
No, they're
those teams.
not. They're not really better teams than
They
them for
catch
sure.
the Steelers 1 week later when Trubinsky's not starting. I don't think they win that game. If you see the way their offense played and the way Pickett played against their defense, he was able to do enough to move the ball. I
Yeah.
don't think they win that game if Trubisky doesn't start it. Obviously, if Tua's in the game, they're not beating the Dolphins, right? The 40 points, as we said before, very much a mirage. They didn't. It wasn't really a 40-17 game. This thing was like 26-17 the whole way down. And then they tacked on some garbage time points to make it look a lot worse than it was.
Yeah.
Uh, this is a team that circumstances fall differently. They could very easily be 1-4. Uh, so I like the Jets. I like a lot of what they're doing. I think they're building on the right path, but I'm not looking at that 3-2 and going, is this maybe a team that sneaks into the playoffs? No, I don't think they're there yet.
Um, let's keep moving to a team that, I think, given the right situation and some of those things that may fall, could be one of those teams that maybe sneaks in the playoffs, but unfortunately wasn't able to get it done last week. Let's go to your Atlanta Falcons going into Tampa Bay, losing 21-15.
Let's
But
go to my Atlanta Falcons.
but they were down 21-0 in this game, rallied back in that fourth quarter,
Fought
and got screwed.
asses off.
Screwed. Absolutely screwed.
And the refs go, nah, Napalabouche. Ain't nobody beating Tom Brady today, boys. Flags everywhere. You get a flag, and you get a flag. Hey, Grady Jarrett, great sack. Too bad you rolled a little bit too strong there. How'd you like a roughing the passer call? These refs in that was insane. The Falcons, I think, took 7 second half penalties. 3 of them, just nothing. Just absolutely nothing. It was absurd. That was the best game the Falcons have played all season. They started out slow like they usually did, but what they didn't do this time, which they normally do, is make shoot yourself in the foot mistakes. They were slow, but they were able to keep themselves alive. Kind of like I said this game was going to go, by the way. Tampa Bay is going to dominate, but the Falcons are going to keep themselves close. But they did something that the Falcons don't normally do, which is not only keep themselves close, but really take control. Late in that third quarter into the fourth, the Falcons dominate that game from there on out. They are all over the Bucs. They get stop after stop, and again, refs screw them. Whatever. That's going to happen. This league, the referees suck in this league. We'll talk about another team that got screwed by some refs in a bit. But actually, another 2 teams in the same game. Both teams kind of trying to get screwed by the refs. I love what I saw of the Falcons in this game. Absolutely love it. This is a team that didn't give up. They fought hard. This is a team that didn't have Kyle Pitts, and again, they haven't been throwing the ball to him. I can harp on that all I want. But I thought there was so many positives out of this game. I think, again, ref ball probably hurts us big time in that one, but you got to look at the positives out of it. The Buccaneers are always a tough hurdle for the Falcons to get over anyways. They tripped on it, but they put up a hell of a fight. And I got no argument for how the team played, and a big argument for the refs. Hey, Uf Maron. Fucking refs, man.
Yeah,
God
I
damn.
mean, yeah, they definitely, yeah, that was the theme for the week. The roughing the passers, and just like how much are you gonna give them? Absolutely screwed. Like
Which
it's
one
the
was
worst
worse?
one. No, this is the worst one I've ever seen.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I heard some people saying like, "Oh, this was worse than the Grady Jarrett one." No, because I can at least see a referee looking at that play in the game and going, "Oh, did that hand go across the face? Did it hit him in the head?" And you know how touchy they are with head contact, especially after the Tua thing. Fine. Grady Jarrett legitimately just tackled him
Yeah.
around the waist, made sure to hug him, brought him down with him, secured him. There's no way he could have hurt Tom in any way on this one.
Yeah.
Get yourself a flag. 15 yards, baby.
Yeah.
Forgot to tuck him in. Didn't put the pillow under his head. What are you doing, Grady? Grady Jarrett's a fucking dog, by the way. Love Grady Jarrett. Absolute machine on that defensive line. Also, did you see Brady kick Grady Jarrett?
Yeah, yeah, and then I
On
guess he got
that?
fined for it too. So it's like, good God, like even you couldn't even get that flag right. Like, oh my goodness, yeah, like
You flagged the wrong person
the
on the
other guy, yeah,
play.
exactly. Like Jesus. Yeah, I mean, pretty crazy. I mean, like you gotta not. This is a team that's probably if you keep this to not 21-0.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, absolutely. They just look like the better team in that second half, and all the momentum going their way. I mean, it was again. You're just kind of this Bucks team. They're stuck. Like they're not. They're getting some wins here and stuff, and through questionable means. But this is as sketchy a 3-2 as any other team with a 3-2 record for
I
sure.
trust the Jets 3-2 more than I trust the Bucks 3-2.
So, yeah, I it's a damn shame. It definitely should have come out the right way, because it's not like it's a given obviously that Atlanta gets the touchdown or anything like that, right? But that was a
No, but they had the momentum to do it.
exactly like to not for that to end it as it
Yeah,
did, because
yeah.
that allowed them just to run out the clock at that
That was
point.
it. Clock was
That's
run out at that point.
yeah, it's such a fucking shame. Um, we will see going forward, as we got a very interesting game coming up next week here. We'll talk
Civil
about.
War. Civil War.
But let's hit on these next. We've got 7 games to go. Let's try to hit through these a little
Yeah.
quickly, as we got some kind of interesting, but more or less kind of what as we won. And we already talked about one of these teams, Tennessee, going into Washington, taking care of business, getting the win against the Commies there, 21-17. You get another good game from Derrick Henry, 102 on the ground, 2 tutties, really workhorse game considering the average there. On the passing side, very limited game from Tannehill. I think
That's how they're going to win.
they're going to have to do that exactly. And on the other side, this was the one of those games that they have Wentz hucking that ball around, and you put up a bunch of yards, but you don't come up with a win. Just a very strange one as far as how their last 2 games have gone, score wise, yards through the air wise, and ultimately whether they win or lose. Don't have anything particular outside of surprising. Good strong game from Henry, and it is surprising to see Wentz still be able to put up those kind of numbers from time to time. But this is just what we were talking about before. It's just like this team's so crazy volatile. Their identity is all over the goddamn place. And they could just as easily lose these 2017 games like this. They could win a 12-7 game. They'll get blown absolutely out versus a mid-run team next week or something. It's just like you just don't know what the hell you're gonna get out of this Washington team. Very
Yeah, and the Commanders stink. I've said enough about the Commanders.
well, okay. So yeah, you think they stink. I think they just have this really volatile, like they can be good. They can have surprisingly good games against good teams and put up decent numbers. They might not win, but they could kind of be there. And then they'll have absolute fucking awful games. And then they'll have an awful game like last night, but they'll still win. Like, what the fuck? What is this? It's a mess.
I've kind of said my piece on the commies.
Exactly.
They are what they are.
Yeah.
This is the Titans' formula to winning.
Yes.
Tannehill, don't just what? No, don't. Derek, you're gonna have a really rough looking first half. You're gonna run for like 15 for like 43. It's gonna look awful. But what it does is that defense is dead tired. Because Derrick Henry doesn't go down. It takes 3-4 guys to take he's a bull when he runs the ball. And that's how you end up with stat links like this, where you look at the average and go, oh, well, it wasn't that great of a game. He just ran the ball a lot. And it's like, well, if you just look at the average, you're kind of ignoring the tail of what that average tells you.
Right.
It's that he fought for all of those yards and broke them down and won the game.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry won this game for the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, Tannehill, I know he's got the touchdown on there doesn't throw the pick, but that's such limited passing.
It's them, and it's that. Oh man, dude, that's secondary. That's secondary for them,
Yeah.
and that linebacking core. As I do just a quick count right here, you're talking about 6 pass deflections in there. You get the pick as well from David Long Jr. That defense actually looked really nice out there as well against a really pass-heavy version of this Washington team. But yeah,
This was the formula that made the Titans the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, that made people think like they are legitimate contenders. I still think this Titans team, if they play like this, is a team that is a threat, because that defense is that good, and Derrick Henry can do this as long as he stays healthy and as long as his body is able to do it. Right? Like, this is what Derrick Henry can do to teams. If you get vintage Derrick Henry this year for the Titans, this Titans team, that AFC South sucks. It's bad. Like, the illusion of Jacksonville got shattered very quickly. It's bad.
Can Indy revive themselves a little bit? But yeah, no. The thing is, Tennessee, it's theirs to take, but they're still a 3-2 team. They have this by a half game essentially because of the tie that Indy has. It's weird. It's weird, yes. Man. It is weird. But But they are. They look, oddly enough, the most consistently good team for
The
sure
last
in the
couple of
AFC South.
weeks, they look like the Tennessee of old.
Yeah.
And if that's the Tennessee that's going to come out, limit Tannehill, use Derrick Henry to just beat down teams, just make Tannehill's game plan, just don't screw up. That team wins this AFC South because there's just nobody else there.
No. And they're going into a bye week this week, so you'll be able to kind of heal up that
Heal
core
up,
of
rest up.
Henry. I don't know if I think it's kind of interesting when you have that early bye week because this does feel like a team that's starting to get it right. Might be
Yeah,
kind of a bad team for the time for them to take a bye week right now.
they would have
You're
audibled
not
this a
really
couple
needing,
weeks
yeah.
forward if they could.
Nobody's too dinged up, I think, for this team.
Nope.
I think actually
No,
a
they're
couple players maybe on defensive side, but
couple
that's
of
about
a
it.
couple of small injuries on the defensive side, like not small as far as like the type of injury, but small as far as like
Yeah,
the impact on the defense as a whole. Like there's a couple guys who would help that are hurt, but are not like game changing that are hurt.
yeah.
They would definitely punt this bye week to week 8 or 9 if they really could.
Yeah. And then yeah, we'll we've already spoken our piece on Washington, but we talk about that AFC South. Let's go into a AFC South matchup, and you just talked about the disillusioned or the revealed Jacksonville Jags, the hot pick, everybody looking to them
Rods,
against who were the winless Houston Texans. Houston going in to Duval
bunch of
and
clowns.
they take it 13-6. A we're going to hand the ball to Damian Pierce. This is kind of what I thought this team was going to be more built around. They definitely did it this one. And on the other side, Trevor Lawrence throws the ball a whole bunch, gets absolutely no time in the pocket, throws a couple
Poor
picks.
dude.
Yeah, this was a rough one. And Davis Mills, nothing to really talk about on that side. Very mixed game, but yeah, this is a Dameon Pierce show for the offense anyway for the Texans. And that defense, hey, they got at it. That's for damn sure.
There was a video on Twitter, I don't know if you saw it or not, where they had a clock at the bottom corner of that first interception that Trevor Lawrence threw. 1.4 seconds from snap to pressure on him.
Yeah. It's rough.
You're killing him.
Yeah.
There was 2 weeks where Trevor Lawrence is like, this is the kind of quarterback I am. Help me. And they're like,
And the thing is, it's just it's a backbreaker too because it's pressure in terms of guys in your face, that sort of thing, but also it's just like enough collapse to where they got D Lyman batting the ball down for the Texans, so like you're just having incompletions left and right in that regard. I don't believe they actually recorded a sack as far as Houston was concerned, but
one.
but
No, they did not.
pass deflections, obviously a couple picks there. Yeah,
Lawrence was hit like 12 times in the game.
Yeah.
He's got really good pocket awareness. He is difficult to sack at times because he does have a good idea of how long he has with the ball, and he's pretty good at getting it out of there. That's why you see that 25 of 47, and you go, not a great completion rating. There's a lot of throwaways in there, like a ton of just get that ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's just got no time, right? There's just no time to let plays develop. When it's 1.4 seconds from snap to pressure, you can't even be running things like slants, basic like patterns that are designed to work without time. That's not even enough for that.
Yeah. We knew it was going to be their issue. It was quite astounding to see how well they had been playing to this point. But yeah, like you had mentioned, a wake up moment as far as let's not get our ahead of ourselves too much. You want to see them do a bit better and hopefully keep loins upright as best they can. But yeah, this a game they were favored touchdown. Can't remember last time Jags were favored a touchdown in a game, and they lose by a touchdown instead. Just kind of speaks to it right there. Just don't get too ahead of yourselves with this squad. Um,
Don't put the horse before the cart yet. They're
yes.
still not even close.
Let's move on to the next one, and the next one. Who would have thought it was the last game we'd see Matt Rule coach? The San Francisco
I mean,
49ers going into the Carolina
at
Panthers.
any moment, any of his games could have been the last one he coached.
Yes. Uh, 37-15. Niners able to take it on the road. Uh, as far as what I noticed as I was watching this game, obviously, um, Jeff Wilson, he seems to kind of have that stride back. He had this at points last season. Uh, it wasn't looking so great, honestly, because the late fumble that they had, I believe in that Broncos game, they ended up losing. Kind of a shocker there. Or was that the Seattle? I can't remember exactly what, but no, Seattle definitely not. It had to be the Denver game. Got that fumble from behind. It was like it was there, but it wasn't. But great game in this one. Garoppolo, not the most accurate numbers. He had a spell from, I would say, about midway through the second or so for a stretch there where he just racked up like 7 of 9 passes were incompletions, basically. Just wasn't connecting. Got it together eventually, though. Kept it clean in that regard. And then Kittle able to get a little bit more involved, but had a very uncharacteristic fumble himself. That was the only surprising thing in that regard. Tevin Coleman, actually, that was another one.
Boy,
Very surprising. Tevin Coleman having a second run with this team. I was surprised that he was one of the guys that came back, especially because they picked up Marlon Mack. I think there's a few guys as far as
yeah.
guys that kind of watch who Niners were picking up, and we always have injuries at backs anyways. Marlon Mack looked like he would. That was a guy that potentially gets slotted in. Ends up going to Tevin Coleman instead, and looked like a great decision. Caught an incredible ball at a third down with Jimmy absolutely just throwing it up there in a prayer, coming down with it. Not a for sure thing by any means. Not something you want to rely on, but a pretty clutch play in that regard. And defense absolutely swarming. Did not make this a fun day for Baker on the other side. McCaffrey had some effectiveness, but then got absolutely blown up as this game went on. It wasn't much of a threat after there was the Emmanuel Mosley interception, a really obvious missed throw. Panthers were backed up. Overthrow by a good couple yards, and Mosley able to take it in. Writing on the wall right there. Pulled him ahead 17-3. Never really looked back.
The list of dudes who got a sack in this game, man. Again, we speak a lot to the depth of the 49ers defense, right? And how scary it is. Fred Warner, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, Hufanga, Gibson, Burks, Omenahu, Drake Jackson, Samson Abuakam.
Yeah. 2 of those guys are safeties, by the way.
Yeah. That's an insane list of dudes getting in on sacks, right? Guys like Omenahu, Burks to a lesser extent, don't see the field a ton, but these are all guys who, when they see the field, they impact the game. And Amena, who we talked about it last week, probably going to be seeing the field a little bit more with the injury. I thought he, again, did what he usually does when he's on the field. He's a disruptor, right? The stats aren't always going to blow your mind, but he's a disruptor in the sense that he's going to be in the play causing problems.
Yeah.
I think that is the best 6th-round pick they've spent in a while.
I will say another one that was a little bit kind of not looked at, side-eyed necessarily, but a little bit questioned, given the time they picked it as well. Drake Jackson looked like a fantastic pick for him. Love what I'm seeing out of him. Another little spark plug piece, and that's what this team has. Just guys that you're able to just kind of plug in there. They'll be fresh. You got that depth. Like some guys, obviously, going to see the field pretty consistently. Your Fred Warners, your Dre Greenlaws, that sort of thing. But man, do they have some? That defensive line depth is insane for this squad. To where, yeah, you could have your consistent linebackers. They'll run the show back there, but you have a lot of guys you could trust to get up on that line for this team. And then, yeah, I mean, this was another game. Literally the next jersey, I think I'm getting for sure.
Hufanga.
Hufanga, baby, dude, love this fucking kid. It is fun to watch. Just look for him
Yeah.
anytime the fucking Niners are on defense. You'll see this guy because he'll come from one side of your screen all the way to the other and just fucking like he
I
just sniffs the ball out. It's great.
he he reads quarterback eyes like nobody's business. It's insane how alert he is to when the ball is in the air. Uh and when it's not in the air, right? Like he can get to the quarterback. I still think like as good as he is at getting to the quarterback, he's so much better as just a cover safety. Um
He just has great. He has really good like awareness, and he has a great
yeah,
like. Once he knows where that play is going, he
he
makes
can break it up.
exactly. So like, you don't really get him biting, even as great of a player as Nick Bosa is,
Yeah.
as far as like getting there, and obviously different position. But if there's one fault that a guy like Nick Bosa seems to have, as aggressive as he is that he will get fooled potentially on a good play action or an RPO or one of those, an option sort of play, right? Um, I don't see that with Hufanga. He reads where that ball's going, and he's like while he's still attacking, and makes the correct decision in terms of when he's hit. So you give that handoff, and you think you're getting away with it, but bam, that running back is still getting hit 3 yards behind the line because he knew that you were going to give it to him, or he knows that you're holding it. He got a little tricked up on that. I think in the Bears game, I think there was one play where he got beat on it, but most of the time, god damn, he is right on it. So it's like for that kind of discipline and yeah, really good ability to pursue the ball. Yeah, love to see that from him. What you kind of saw on a little bit of the other side, that the only guy you'd really say was raved about in this game for the Panthers was Brian Burns on the other side. Um,
I mean, Shai Smith had a pretty decent game, I suppose. But yeah. Um yeah, so long Matt Rule.
yeah,
You should have never been here. um I mean, I shouldn't say never. He did have a couple good stints in college, but he's just not a guy who transitioned well,
no, no,
right? There's this stigma about college coaches that they never transition well. That's not true. There's a lot of great NFL coaches who started out as college coaches, uh, but he's not one of them who transitioned well. So
not this
uh,
go anyways. Like yeah, but it
go
doesn't look
go
great
go
for
back to
anyone.
Arizona State. They'll pay you a bunch of money like they did Herm Edwards, and
That went well.
yeah. Well, that's what Arizona State does recently. Is just find the latest big name NFL flameout, pay him a bunch of money to go like 5-7. That's a college football story. Let's move
Let's
on.
keep it going then. Yeah. Here's a guy who's I think has the potential to get paid a lot of money if he keeps it going this season for at least the opportunity that he has. Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys, 22-10 over the LA Rams. I know it's a little later in Cooper Rush's career, but he might be able to get one more nice contract out of it before it's all said and done. If he keeps playing like this, he's getting wins for this team. This Rams team is beat to absolute shit. This is one of the worst opponents they probably could have faced, given that you're talking about a pretty good front seven in this Dallas Cowboys team and an offensive line for the Rams that is beat to absolute hell. This was a rough one for him. and 10 points shows every bit of that.
Okay, Mike McCarthy.
Yes.
Say it with me now. Stop playing Zeke over Pollard. That's the whole sentence. Um, fuck. It's getting annoying. Every time they put the ball in Tony Pollard's hand,
Yeah.
great things happen. Sure, occasionally happens when you put the ball in Zeke's hands, but it takes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rushes for that to happen. Happens every time you do it with Tony Pollard. Maybe it's because Tony's the better running back. Just throwing it out there. Maybe consider it. Yeah. Cooper Rush's worst game as a starter is probably this one.
Yeah.
And he did what he had to do, right? Like, he didn't have to be spectacular in this one. The Rams decided they didn't want to win this game and just gave it to the Cowboys. So Cooper Rush decided he did want to win the game and did what he needed to do to win the game.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for this squad. I mean, they gave up 5 sacks on this one as far as the Rams were concerned. Um, they fumbled the ball away a couple times as well. So it's just like, and I believe one or two of those were special teams fumbles. So
There was a special teams fumble.
yeah, a
Yes.
special. Okay, so like nothing like I think the Cowboys were the worst team for the Rams to face right now.
Yes.
I don't think you could put up the kind of offensive performance. Granted, they didn't need to really put up the offensive performance, but you also can't really put the kind of numbers they didn't really put up much. I mean, 10 first
Because
downs on the
they were always
day.
in short fields. They
Yeah,
were always in short fields.
yeah. I mean, and then but short fields, and you only put up 22. It's just like there's you did enough. You did enough. Absolutely,
Yeah.
this Rams team, they look bad, and uh, your defense looks pretty goddamn good. Um, it'll be interesting going forward. Yeah, you gotta agree. Like they love handing the ball to Zeke right now, but yeah, let's see that maybe a little bit more of a 50-50 split. Right now, this is like a 3/4, 2/3 Zeke to 1/4, 1/3 Pollard. Let's see that as a half and half, maybe.
Pollard had 8 rushes to Zeke's 22.
Exactly. So,
Pollard outran him by like 15 yards, did it end up being?
yeah. So right.
Pollard was the 10 yards.
So agreed. Like it
All you
seems
need to
like a nice
say,
little
right?
piece.
Like, but Mike McCarthy's going to beat his head against the wall until it bleeds because that's what he's done at every job he's ever had.
Yep. Um.
That's early to say there.
Yeah, let's keep moving into Battle of the Birds. Ended up actually coming down to a little bit closer game than I think a lot of us would have expected. But Philly still coming out with the W, 20-17 against the home Arizona Cardinals there. Early lead for Philly that kind of gets caught up on. And yeah, it requires a within 2-minute field goal there at the end for Philly to take it. So much closer than to be expected. Cards, I believe James Conner gets injured in this game for them. So that's going to be an unfortunate hit for them going forward. Want to say, though, that, would have expected Eagles to pull away more in this game, but you're going to run into these every now and then. You're going to run into a Cardinals team that does, finds a way and they're able to stick around.
They have the talent. Again, this
Yeah.
is
Just nice gritty win, basically, like sort of style of win, anyways, for the Eagles. Wins like these are going to be what really gets you the nice seeding, really keeps you in that hunt, obviously. Still undefeated team, obviously, so they are the number 1 seed. But you got to think down the line, you're going to take some losses here and there. It's just going to happen. Really establish yourself with wins like this to you'll probably have more wins than most if you keep winning games like this.
Cliff Kingsbury needs to be next.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so realistically, is he the worst coach in the NFL right now? No, probably not. You have McDaniels in Vegas and Nate Hackett and uh, Denver, but this is their first year on the job, so they're going to get a bit longer of a leash. Cliff Kingsbury's here because he's supposed to be an offensive guru who can speak to quarterbacks and make them do whatever the heck they want. Have we seen any of that in Arizona? I mean, Kyler Murray's had moments of brilliance, but certainly nothing that would make you think this Cliff Kingsbury reputation that he had coming out of Texas Tech was worth it. And then you remember the fact that that whole quarterback whisperer guru thing was just he had Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. He's been given a long enough leash. It's time to cut it. It's time to cut that leash off. He's given you nothing. If your offense can only put up 17, like he's giving you nothing because he's never had good defenses ever. At Texas Tech, his defenses all sucked. He's never had a good defense with the Cardinals, and now his offense is failing. He's now officially useless.
It's surprising to see them look as abysmal as they have.
Completely feckless.
Yeah,
Just completely.
yeah, and yeah, they. I mean, it's not like James Conner was doing a whole lot back there, but yeah, it's just now you got him dinged up. It's just yeah, I don't know what the hell this team like. They're the kind of team that could maybe they'll scrap some wins maybe together, but this team also could maybe not win another fucking game for the rest of the year. It feels like almost as much as they made this 3-point game
Yeah.
somehow. I don't
No,
see it. Like what the hell do they have? Like I this is a team that could easily lose those games against Seattle that they'll have. It's
I
just
mean, they
like
still have the Broncos down the line. They still have the Patriots down the line, whatever they'll be at that time, who knows? They got a couple games against the Seahawks. The Saints aren't great. You imagine they'll scrap a couple wins out of some of those bottom feeders, right? Again, who knows what the Falcons are going to be in January? They've been a team that scraps hard, but don't really have a ton of talent right now. So who knows where you maybe scrap a few of those wins out? But oh boy, Cliff is not getting the job done. And again, this is a team that has more talent than being 2-3, right? That receiving core is too good. You have Zach Ertz, AJ Green, Hollywood Brown. I don't care that Nuke Hopkins is suspended. There's enough talent there that you should be better than 2-3, right? That defense, the names there are good. Like there is some solid players on that defense, but it just feels like they can never get stops when they need them. Right. I don't know. It's got Cliff's got to be the next one, right? Like I
you
said,
heard it
I don't
here.
think he's the worst coach in the NFL. I would say McDaniels or Hackett first, but they're going to get a bit of a longer leash.
Yep.
The whole thing about Cliff is he starts out the season great, and then his teams fall off a cliff down the stretch. Pardon the pun.
Yep.
But they're not even starting out well
No,
now.
that now it's just about to start. So maybe I mean they can right the ship and they can start getting good and flip the script on that, or they're just bad the entire way. I feel
I
like it
think
might
they
be the
might
latter.
just be bad.
Might be the latter.
Yeah.
Let's move it on to the next one, and a game that was the scoring began and ended on the leg of Justin Tucker.
The GOAT.
The Cincinnati Bengals going into Baltimore, almost getting it, but coming up short, losing to the Justin Tucker led Baltimore. Now, the Baltimore Ravens. A I don't know. It feels like there's so many of these style of games in the AFC North. Um, Absolutely scrappy one, and yeah, now Cincinnati find themselves at 2-3 early on this season. Has not been the start they thought coming off of that AFC championship.
I I know there was a lot of Bengals fans who were down after this game. I wasn't terribly down on the Bengals after this one. I thought they were the better team for the bulk of the game. Um, this is two good teams, right? They're both supposed to be teams who are going to challenge for the AFC North, that are going to be playoff teams, that are going. It was a scrappy game. You lost to the greatest kicker that maybe the game's ever seen. It happens. I honestly I took a lot of positives out of this Bengals performance despite the loss.
Yeah.
Um, but I also understand that we're at the point now where losing to a good team, being the better team, but losing to a great kicker, because of the way you've started, it's not good enough anymore. But
It,
I don't know. I wasn't quite as negative on the Bengals' performance as people seem to be.
I think what I didn't like to see out of them. So this is how they began the game. 4 plays and a punt, then a 3-and-out punt, a 3-and-out punt, and a 3-and-out punt.
Yeah, started out
Rough
real
start,
rough.
and it's not like Baltimore is doing anything crazy with that. They have a touchdown, a field goal, a punt, and a pick, all in that span as well. Before you're able to finally get a touchdown with a drive, you tie it up with a field goal. But then this sequence right here, beginning of the second half, Baltimore starts with the ball. They turn it over on downs. They try to go for it on their second set of downs, fail it. You immediately throw a pick back to them. Baltimore goes 6 yards in 4 plays, kicks the field goal, goes up on you. You then have a 15-play, 8-minute drive that results in you turning it over on downs. And that's just like, that's brutal right there. And then Baltimore has a 15-play, 8-minute drive back at you. It's just like right there. You had this game. You could have just taken this game. Absolutely. And then you throw a pick, and then you have a long drive that gets you no points. It's just like that's
Yeah.
a heartbreaking third quarter they had to endure. And they almost made it happen. They still got a touchdown at the very end because there wasn't enough Baltimore offense really to pull them away. They almost still got it. And how the fuck does it end? Of course, Justin Tucker's just able to get it on just a simple, oh yeah, okay, 40-yarder, no problem. Just like,
Yeah, 40,
you gotta be
40
fucking
yards might
kidding
be
me, dude.
25,
You
man.
gotta
Like,
be kidding me. Like, as they did so much work for so little production, so little to
yeah.
show for it, and it's a loss at the end of the day. Just
Oh yeah,
brutal.
no, hundred
Just a
percent,
brutal
100%
loss.
agree with that. And listen, I everything I said about Zach Taylor, copy or about Cliff Kingsbury, copy paste Zach Taylor.
Wow, really?
I don't
God,
love the way
man.
he calls games. I
I
don't
was,
love the way he calls
I
games.
was, dude, he was one of my candidates, coach of the year
I
last year. Wow, really? Already?
I don't like the way he calls games. And I get that they went to the Super Bowl last year and that run was great, but this Bengals team is better than what they've shown. And I think they're being hindered a little bit by coaching. Um, Now not as urgent as Cliff Kingsbury by any means,
No.
right? He's this is still only his second year as an NFL head coach. I think you have a little bit of time to see if he can maybe right the ship a little bit on this one. Um, but I've got some troubling vibes about Zach Taylor. We talked about Brian Dabble letting teams blow up in front of him and just doing the little things right. Zach Taylor wants to make every play like this big spec. They tried a Philly special for fuck's sake. Out of, like a triple reverse Philly special to boot. They're like, we're gonna Philly special the shit out of this, and everybody could see it from a mile away, and it went nowhere. Uh, it just every play seems like it needs to be this big elaborate play out of them. Whereas you look at the coaches who are succeeding right now, they're guys who are like, listen, we're gonna do what we do well and let other teams screw up things that they don't do well. Zach Taylor seems to be screwing up the things that his team don't do well right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like after you're 5 games in the season, 2-3 is not where you want to be at. You're still scrapping out there. You're right
Yeah,
there with division leader. I'm not quite there on, but yeah, this is not ideal, obviously, and you know it's things like the defensive side too. This is I had a question mark about how this defense was going to be after they were pretty goddamn good last year, and especially that front and that sort of thing. It's just like not quite the production that we were seeing out of them. It happened though. I think they have all the potential though, and obviously the talent is up and down the board, offensive side of the ball. I mean, if you could get, um, you gotta get that O line right. But yeah, I mean, you know,
That O-line's played a little bit better recently. It's starting to put the pieces together a little bit.
so
It's starting to gel. As for the defense, you take a guy like DJ Reader out of a defense, it's going to hurt it a lot. Right. That DJ Reader injury, I think, is hurting this defense a lot. Um, and this is a team that their secondary wasn't really all that before, right? Like, we're talking about a team that realistically has their number one cornerback as Eli Apple,
right.
right? Who I think gets way more flack than he maybe should. I think he's a good cornerback, but he ain't no number one corner.
Well,
And yeah, absolutely, there's issues on the defensive side, but yeah, I'm not quite like. So when I say the copy paste the Cliff Kingsbury thing, it's not like a this needs to happen now. They're two very different 2 and 3s. But I'm starting to like read those Cliff Kingsbury notes and read what I think about Zach Taylor to start this season, and they're starting to sound very similar. And that's a little bit disturbing to me.
yeah. Um, and I know a coach you want to talk about quite a bit. It was the last game. It was an unfortunate one. It was a heartbreaker again. The last two plays are some of the most heartbreaking ways to go out, I would say, as far as the Devontae miss and then the Devontae Hunter Renfro collision, right? And then the
Yeah.
Devontae push. So I guess it's 3 plays if you count that last thing as a play. 29-30. The Raiders unfortunately not able to beat the Chiefs as the Chiefs are at home. Quite a game though. Chiefs had to rally back in that second half, and yeah, maintain and hold on for the 1 point win. Go 4-1 on the season.
Um, yeah. We'll talk about the real story of this game in a minute. Um, uh, but I do want to quickly talk about again our boy Mike McDaniel. Fucking what was that play call? You're running a 20-yard crossing route with two receivers that are 2 yards apart? Of course they're gonna trip on each other. What?
I think he drew that one up in Madden, and like I understand you do some hot routes and you could accidentally just cross them, but sometimes Madden will actually have plays that they whatever like they'll have two meshes that just run right into each other. I I think that's what he went and like maybe someone got a little like bumped and threw the timing off on it. I guess I don't
They
know.
were pretty much shoulder to shoulder at snap, and he's like, "Here's the plan. You guys are gonna cross about 25 yards down the field. Fuck off." It's
Yeah,
it's he's so useless. Yeah, he, there's this Raiders team is so good. Josh Jacobs is finally running the ball like everybody thought he could run the ball. Derek Carr's not making stupid decisions. He's actually throwing the ball really well. You have Adams and Renfro and so many good players. And this coach is a fucking anchor on their weight who just refuses to let them win.
yeah.
It's awful.
It's tough. This is a 1-4 team that I
They should
mean
be 4-1.
it's it's got to be tough because yeah, exactly. Like you had, uh,
No way they should lose to the Titans.
yeah,
They literally shot themselves in the foot repeatedly against the Cardinals to make sure the Cardinals won that game. The Chargers game, they were kind of outplayed by the Chargers. Fair enough. And then this one, you were in it the whole way. You could have pulled. this could be a 4-1 team
Yeah,
if they could just be coached properly.
yeah. I would say another thing that kind of goes under the radar on this one. Um, you can't, as the Raiders, be doing it. They're actually. I don't think they have been. Maybe for the last year or so, maybe 2 years, but 11 penalties, almost 100 yards in this game. Can't be
Well,
doing it.
that's the other thing we need to talk about. The referees.
Yes.
They were out in full force in this one.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing about it.
16
Usually when
flags
that
in this game.
happens, the Falcons Buccaneers game, the
What?
Falcons got fucked by the refs. This game, both teams got fucked by the refs. Equal opportunity, baby. Who
Yeah.
wants them? Chiefs, you going in for that strip sack? Beautiful strip sack. Too bad that hand got right on the shoulder. A little too close to the head for my liking, roughing the passer. Don't worry, because on a field goal that you guys are gonna how did that work? They missed the field goal, and then it was called for defensive fucking holding on a field goal.
Yeah. That's right.
I found the stat of all stats on this one tab. Are you ready to believe that we live in a simu fucking lation right now? The last time there was a defensive holding call on a field goal was in 2015. Referee Chris Jones, who was the referee of this game, called it against the Raiders while they were playing the Chiefs.
Damn. 7 years out. Huh. That's insane.
That's
Uh,
fucked.
I mean, granted, yeah, it's Chiefs and Raiders are gonna play, twice every season, but yeah, I mean, same dude call that same call, and nobody else calls it. I mean, yeah, defensive holding. I didn't even
Defensive
see.
holding there was nothing.
Yeah, I
There
didn't
was
even.
nothing.
That's wild.
It was atrocious reffing. Just god awful. The only thing I'll say to the positive is it was god awful everywhere, so nobody really benefited from it. It just ended up washing out this whole game in this disgusting taste in your mouth at the end of like all the reffing was just so bad.
Uh, yeah, yeah, and that was brutal. I obviously those two calls stand out, but yeah, I totally even
There
forgot
was a
about
bunch
that.
of them.
Forgot
There
about
was a
that holding. And oddly enough, yeah, Raiders were the ones that took 11 penalties in that game.
yeah.
So even more so, that's insane stat line there. That's a pretty amazing one. But yeah, that will do it right there. That is the slate of games from last week, and we covered the one from this week. Just for the record books, in the picks, it was looking not so great, but I guess I pulled it back around, I believe, toward the end of this one for me. So I ended up going 7-8, still a losing record on the week, but I end up with a 40-33-2 record now. Craig ends up going 8-7, just a little bit over 500, and now has a 36-37-2 record going forward. And as I say it, let's go into this week's picks. And we start with a good one. We got our little bit of a civil war within the Sports Cliche family. Unfortunately, I don't know if Falcons fan could do it. Can he do it? Can he homer this one? Niners going into Atlanta. 3-2 Niners against the 2-3 Falcons. Falcons getting plus 4.5 at home. You already know I'm going the Niners. And it sounds like Craig is going the
Me
Niners.
too. Me too.
He's going with his head on this one, folks.
There's so much meat. Like Falcons at home, they've yet to actually not cover a spread this year. Like they are the only team that is perfect ATS. And it feels like the kind of game that again, talking about it last week with the Buccaneers. The Falcons aren't really in this game, but somehow they keep it close and they keep scrapping and they keep fighting and they stick around. It's not going to be that. This Niners team is, in my opinion, 1B in the NFC. I'm not quite sure if they're better than the Eagles yet. They're right there with them. That's the NFC elite, in my opinion, at this moment. The Falcons are nowhere close to NFC elite. They're a scrappy team. They fight hard. They they're gonna play their asses off. Arthur Smith, I think, is doing a great job at navigating a very difficult roster right now. Um, they're gonna fight, but they're gonna lose this game, and they're probably gonna lose it by more than 4.5. So
Yeah, I gotta say, like, yeah, I think there would be a lot of teams that, given a good enough spread, that sort of thing, given the good matchup, being at home, I would be picking the Falcons potentially this week. Of course, they're running into my Niners, and that's going to be one thing against them. But also, yeah, I mean, if I if I try to remove the bias and I really just look at this from the lens, like this defense is just fucking people up left and right. Like it's not even you're lucky to be sniffing like real kind of double digit points against this team. It's not like they haven't given that up, but um, you're starting to get that production out of that running game from a Jeff Wilson able to step in over the Eli Mitchells. Um, the Jimmy to Debo connection is starting to come back. You're even starting to get Kittle involved a little bit. It's very scary. Ayuk's getting in there as well. Um, a little sprinkling of Jawan Jennings, and it's just like I, yeah, this is looking every bit of the, last season Niners had a very very rough start, and it wasn't until I think week 6, week 7 against the Bears did they start to really turn the corner and become that dominant team that we were seeing in the pretty much the second half of the season, and while it hasn't been good and there has been some losses, this is honestly a Niners team that absolutely had every chance to be 5-0 as well, right there with the Eagles. So I can't really argue with the potential, second best team or right there with the Eagles evaluation on that. And yeah, if they keep most of those things going, it's going to be a tough game for the Falcons. So got to go with the Niners.
it is worth noting the injury report for the Niners going into this game
Yes.
is rough. Mosley's out, Armstead's out, Kinlaw's out, Jimmy Ward's out, Bosa's still on the questionable side and hasn't had a full practice yet. There's so many parts on that defense that you could say, despite missing all those guys, you don't know if it really hurts them that much. Like obviously you're gonna miss those guys, but they have so many guys who can step up. Like this isn't last year where Emmanuel Mosley's out, and now you have um uh oh Ambry Thomas. You have
Yeah.
Ambry Thomas having to
Right.
guard top guys, right?
Yeah.
Emmanuel Mosley's out. That means Travarius Ward keeps doing what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Like it just feels like there's so much more depth there this year on top of just the talent being really good. The Falcons are going to keep this thing gritty, man, and that defense is strong. The Falcons defense is not an easy defense to break down. This isn't going to be similar to the scoreline that the Niners had against the Panthers. I don't believe that. But this is still going to be like a 27-10, 27-14 kind of a game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they did get dinged up last week, but yeah, I mean, like some of these injuries they've continued to have. I mean, Kinlaw and
Yeah.
Armstead have been injured.
Yeah.
It's yeah, those weird things too. It's like you hate that Ward kind of got re-dinged up after just coming back, but who are the two guys that we were just talking about earlier from this team? Hufunga, Gibson Senior. Those have been your safeties,
Yeah.
prior to this. So it's unfortunate, kind of a little step back in that regard, but yeah, and we're talking about that D line depth, like so. You're just seeing it kind of across the board, and yeah, it sucks to Emmanuel Mosley's injury is probably the worst thing out of everything that we had last
Yeah.
week. But I
Yeah.
mean, we talked about him before, who's probably one of the biggest free agent pickups that we even had last year, that any team had last year. I feel this past offseason, Travarius Ward, for
By far.
damn sure. absolutely makes this team and really helps the depth. And I think with Travarius Ward, who really kind of benefits, and we're seeing it this year or this early on, is a guy like Hufanga.
Yeah.
We get to play this guy wild because we don't have to worry about him. Not wild, but like safety blitzes, like and
The
pressures and that sort of thing. You get to use that guy as effectively as you want to use him, as far as attacking the ball and attacking, the backfield, that sort of thing. Just because you got a Travarius Ward that could do
yeah.
it for you on the outside.
The the Pittsburgh Steelers used to do a thing 3 or 4 times a game. This was a story from the Pat McAfee show,
Yeah.
where Troy Polamalu would just call his own play, and he wouldn't tell anybody what he was doing because he didn't want
Wait,
anybody else to
what?
get in
Was he
trouble.
supposed to blitz?
He didn't want anybody else to get in trouble for it, because if it went wrong, he could go, "Hey, I went rogue. That one's mine." But he would just 3 or 4 times a game just go, "I think I'm gonna blitz here. I know we're supposed to be playing cover 2, but they're not throwing. This is what's gonna happen, and I'm just gonna blitz and get it like a 9-yard tackle for loss." Hufanga does a lot of that shit.
And like that's the funny thing is that's been the storyline, is that Hufanga is
Yeah,
actually getting traded by Troy
by
Polamalu,
Paul Miller.
and that's some great advice to be giving a young safety, a young DB in this league. It's like, all right, so they're gonna call this play, and you're gonna agree with coach, but you're not gonna do that
But you're not gonna do
because
that.
you're
But
gonna
you're gonna
see
do something
this.
completely different.
What are you talking about? I gotta listen to coach. Yeah, you gotta listen to coach. Of course, of course, of course. But
But hear me out. Every once in a while, Jesus is gonna come down, dude. He's gonna be like, "Listen, they're definitely gonna try to run this ball into the end zone off of the field goal. Just line up on that side." And everybody's gonna look at you like, "Why are you lining?" But you know why. Jesus told you to.
Jesus and the way, and to hit that halfback on a sweep for -5. It's the way. Yeah, this should be a runaway for the Niners. I agree, for well over 4.5 points. And we will see. That will be a nice early morning Sunday game. One of the first ones we're going to see out on the slate. Another early morning Sunday game. Let's get through it. New England going into Cleveland. A couple 2-3 teams right now. The Pats are actually. Oh no, sorry. The Browns are going to be getting -2.5 here at home. Believe, yeah, Mac Jones still going to be out for the Pats, so you're going to get the zappy. You're going to get a little zapped. And for the Browns, of course, still going to be going with Jacoby Brissett behind center. Who you got in this one?
At the moment, they have Mac Jones listed as questionable.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that, and I was like, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of swore everything I was hearing that he's not.
yeah, everything I was hearing was the same thing, that he wasn't going to be playing. If Bailey Zappi plays, I got the Patriots all day in this one. I loved what I saw out of him. I think, honestly, I think even if Mac Jones plays, although I've been a bit worried about Mac Jones' start to the season, but I loved what I saw out of Bailey Zappi, and I think it's only going to get better as you begin to unshackle the handcuffs a little bit,
Yeah,
right? As you begin to trust the kid a little bit more and let him do a few more things. Ramondre Stevenson is an absolute beast of a runner,
right.
and he's going to be a huge difference in this game. Um, Obviously, Nick Chubb's going to do his damage, but I don't trust Brissett to really be the guy who can exploit this Patriots defense enough to win this game. Um, I like what the Patriots got here.
It's gonna be interesting because I feel like yeah, I mean I do like Stevenson for sure. Nice little bounce in production that you're seeing out of him. It's an interesting one because the Patriots defense points per game hasn't been doing too bad. If they have one weakness, it is rushing yards against. But when you have this sort of team like the Browns that is going to be focused on running this ball, if they could clamp that up, I agree. I don't think you got enough in a guy like Brissett to be able to offset that. I think you have just enough as far as an all right balanced attack on your end if you're the Pats. Um, you're coming off a game in which your defense was able to shut out. Granted, Detroit team that wasn't playing well. Um, this Cleveland Brown team has taken back-to-back kind of heartbreaker losses. I can almost see the exact same thing happening here. And with the -2.5, I see this as a very close game. I have New England as well in about maybe a field goal game, maybe about 4 point game, honestly.
Yeah, I'm about the same. 4 or 5 points at most. I think it's going to be tight. Uh, Heavy lean on the under. I don't know what the over under is on this one, but it doesn't feel like a game where a ton of points get put up. Although I don't know, maybe me watching that there was a bowl game, the Boca Raton Bowl, I think, a few years ago between Western Kentucky and App State. Ended like 54-48. Was an absolute fucking barn burner. I remember watching Bailey Zappi throw for like 560 yards and 6 touchdowns. And I remember watching him and going like, man, this guy can fucking throw the ball. I don't know. I still believe that guy's in there in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I think this is probably going to be low scoring and close, but I still like the Patriots.
So both on the Patriots for that one. Going from a couple 2 and 3 teams to a pair of 3 and 2 teams for the next game. Very surprising, and yeah, I don't know. This is a fun one, I felt. Big spread, too. New York Jets going into Green Bay. Green Bay getting -7.5 here at home. As far as these two teams are concerned, Pack, yeah, we talked about it before, coming off that loss to the Giants. Close one, though. Jets coming off that big win that's a little deceiving against the Skylar Johnson, right? Is that his last name?
Skylar Thompson.
Thompson, there we go. Led Miami Dolphins. Yeah, who you got in this one? Big old spread, -7.5 for the Pack.
I before the stream mentioned to you that there's 2 spreads this week that I fucking hate. This is one of them.
Right.
Because I feel like, hypothetically, the Packers should definitely win this game.
Right.
That being said, I don't trust the Packers to win this game by more than a touchdown. And if the Packers decide to do what they did last week and just stop running the ball altogether, the Jets could clip them. Right? That Jets secondary is very good. And if you can't keep them honest with a continuous running attack that will put some pressure on their front seven, that secondary is going to find ways to shut you down.
I think right there we're starting to align a little bit. I feel
I got the Jets.
I got the Jets too. Let's go.
I think the Packers end up winning this game, but I think it's something like 24-20.
It's two things
tight.
It's two things right now for me. And part of what exactly you're talking about. First of all, what the hell has this Packers offense done to show you anything to where they could like reasonably put up 8 more points than any team? It seems like it's just not something they've been very capable of doing, no matter who the hell they're facing. This team just like the offensive, and we knew it was going to be tough in the receiving game just because of inexperience with the guy. But honestly, this is 2 seasons now where Rodgers really doesn't look like super MVP Aaron Rodgers. Like, he had a lot of games last season where I felt like he really underperformed. He ends up getting an MVP season at the end of the day. I don't know, like, he pulled it out toward, like, I guess the second half of the season, but there was a lot of games where it was just, it's 200 yards. It's a single touchdown with a pick and that sort of thing. Very mixed games, and this is a team that's not dedicated to running the ball with their 2 really good backs. Like, they just have a problem doing that. It's a recipe for this Jets team. Another thing this Jets team is really ball hawk hungry as far as their DBs are concerned. We brought up Sauce Gardner earlier. Don't be surprised if Sauce maybe gets a pick for this team.
Oh,
We'll
calling
write
up the Sauce Gardner pick. I like
hey, if we're
it.
gonna put up, a prop bet for this one, give me the over on the .5 picks for Sauce Gardner. Absolutely, I believe so.
I love Sauce. I think he's had such an outstanding start to this season. I know last week was his first pick, but he's done so much for this Jets defense, man. Every week the Jets are going, here's their best guy, go get him, Sauce, and he's been
Yeah,
doing such a good job of it.
and right now, I mean, who are you talking about as far as your best
Lazard,
guy? Exactly, he's gonna eat him alive.
yeah,
Multiple guys. And then I would say, along with that, I mean, I honestly, along with Sauce, like I know he's gotten the first one. I do like a DJ Reed on the other side of that. As far as your second corner there, CJ Mosley as far as your middle linebacking option, and I love their ends. Carl Lawson, Franklin Myers. I absolutely see them being able to get home against this Green Bay team, getting at least a sack in there. Quentin Williams, obviously. Enough said with him. Yeah, I like this Jets team right here. This matchup against the Green Bay team and this spread, absolutely hammering the
yeah,
Jets for this one.
yeah. The spread is what really gets me on this one because I still can't get past the thought that Green Bay finds a way to pull this game out, but it's not going to be by 7 points.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean that's just it. I wouldn't be like, oh, the Jets are so much better of a team,
Yeah,
or yeah, Green Bay's gonna fumble it that much. But absolutely, like 7.5. That's a giant spread for
yeah,
an offense that doesn't show me that kind of spread numbers.
yeah.
One that's a little bit tighter on the spread, but I don't know. This one's kind of a funny one based on trajectories and strange how it ended up this way, but we got the 2-3 Jacksonville Jaguars going into Indianapolis to face off against the 2-1 Colts. Um, Jags coming off a bad loss against Houston. Colts coming off a bad win against Denver. Um, tough, tough. -2 for the Colts at home on this one. What are you thinking? This one's actually one of the toughest ones, a little bit for me.
Yeah. The crazy thing about this is I was gonna come on here and jokingly say like hammer the under. The over under on this is like 31 points.
I've seen 42 on the Yahoo Sports one, but yeah, like oh yeah, that could be yeah. I'd hammer the under on
It's
42.
Yahoo Sport. If you're getting 42 under,
Yeah.
um,
Yo, over is actually carrying on the bets. Look at that. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. People are believing on the offense here.
I'm not. I like the Colt, and I hate the fact that I said it out loud because now I got to kind of stick with it. Um, it it's a gut pick on this one. My head says Jags all the way.
Hmm.
Right? They dominate this matchup. They every time, every fucking time the Colts play the Jaguars, the Jags beat them, and we all get to laugh at the Colts, and it's funny. But they're gonna have Jonathan Taylor back. He's gonna be rested. He's gonna be a little bit more healthy than he was at the start of the season. This is the breakout game, right? This is the Jonathan Taylor goes 19 for 190 and 2 touchdowns, right? Like something ridiculous like that. It just the Jaguars feel like they're in complete tailspin right now. And I know they love playing the Colts and they always beat them, but it's it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be 14-10, but the Colts pull this one out, I think maybe.
So here's the tough one. This is what's tough about this. All right. So these teams, we're week 6. These teams have already played this season. That game
Yes.
was 24-0
Yes.
Jaguars.
Yes.
Tough. This Colts team is dead last, 32nd in points scored per game, under 14 points scored per game. They are somehow the 7th best passing offense at 275 yards a game, but somehow still
What?
dead last. Yes, 275 yards a game.
Matty Ice is chucking?
Less than 14 points to show for it, though, because they're 27th in rushing at
Yeah.
91 yards per game.
Yeah.
They had Naheem Hines. They didn't use him, and I think he's now dinged up, right? Is he now
Naheem
injured?
Hines, when on that hurdle, he blew out his knee.
Yeah. Everything about this, if you just looked at that, you hammer the Jags.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But not so fast, my friends.
Not so fast.
You're talking about a historically just this is a team that's gonna underperform on both sides. The Jags just to that very like basement bottom sort of play. The Colts too, they should be good, but they play to mid.
Yeah.
In this game, the Colts are out Kwity Paye and Shaq Leonard. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's real tough. Questionable Julian Blackman as well. This hinges on if a questionable Jonathan Taylor can come off this ankle and do anything for this run game. If he could do anything, and I'm talking like 75 yards, Colts for sure. It hinges on Jonathan Taylor getting any kind of production in this game. And it doesn't have to be much. Give me 75 yards and a tutty, and I think the Colts win this game. If they don't, if they lose this game, granted the injuries and that sort of thing, they lose this game and they like it's anything close to the it's crazy to think you could potentially just be that down on the Colts, but man, this is one they gotta take right here, and what's gonna be tough for them given those injuries, but yeah, I still gotta go with the Colts on it. It's like I just feel enough, just history and like history, not specifically between these two teams because the Jags have stolen games from the Colts. I don't know, just trajectory wise, gut feeling, I'm just feeling the Colts.
Interesting, because I'm not feeling the Colts, but I'm picking them.
I'm feeling the Colts in that these like the Jags have a good defense. They've shown that, but they're not the fourth best defense, scoring defense against. They're not 16 points per game against. They're not the 15th best scoring offense either. They're not
No.
middle of the road. They're worse than that. And I can't believe that the Colts are the worst scoring offense. They gotta be putting up more than 14 points in this game. Goddamn sure. Like, come on now. It's ridiculous. And they have passing yards to show for it. They have the 5th best time of possession in the league too. Like, there's something there. How do you have the 27th best rushing yardage wise, but you have the 5th best time of possession? It makes no fucking sense, their stats. They're all over the place. So there's nothing that could really be too much gained or lost from them. They're all over the fucking place. Funny team. I'm going Colts though. Simple as that. Let's keep it moving. A couple questionable teams actually. What am I saying? Because we talked about how we don't know about this Minnesota team, but we sure as hell don't know about this Miami team going forward right now. And they're both going to be facing off. Minnesota going into Miami. Minnesota coming in at 4-1. Miami sitting at 3-2. Miami getting +3 here at home. On the injury, I believe, this is going to be another Skylar Thompson start or
He is
start,
starting.
not another one. this will be his first start, I guess. Um, on the other side, yeah, I saw the Madison questionable. I don't know if he's going to be going for the Vikings, but they're not terrible on the injury sheet. Looks like Wonham as well, DJ Wonham, linebacker for them, injured as well.
Well,
Um,
he's sick.
oh, okay.
One of
Oh,
them's
sick.
questionable with
Thank
illness,
you.
so
Yeah,
usually those are good to go.
yeah. I can't +3 at home. This Minnesota team, they've been doing more than I thought they would, but this is right now. They're situated to be a better team right now. I like that we're seeing a guy like Raheem Mostert having a little bit of a resurgence for Miami. I just don't believe they could beat a 4-1 team right now, as solid as Minnesota's looked. I got the Vikings.
100%. There's no way Skylar Thompson's leading this Dolphins team to a win here. Uh, I said it last week. What you saw out of Skylar last week, that's Skylar Thompson. Uh, I, yep, nope.
Yeah,
Vikings.
yeah. Simple as that. Yeah, I'm. This is a Dolphins team that I would have kind of been hanging their hat on their defense a little bit more. Their defense hasn't been playing well this season, so I don't know if you could go with that. And right now, yeah, you're trying out your third string quarterback. It's going to be tough to come by points, yards in this game for this Miami team. I feel so. Yeah, Minnesota by well over those 3 points for sure.
Yeah.
On to the next. Oh, couple 2 and 3 teams on this one. Cincinnati, the Bengals going into the New Orleans Saints into the dome. Saints getting +2.5 here at home. Saints, I believe, going to be this is going to be another Andy Dalton led Saints team. So going against his former squad there. Injury list. What else did I see on this one? Stood out a little bit. Yeah, Jarvis Landry, yeah, out. Winston, as we brought up, he's listed as questionable here. I believe he's definitely not playing. You got a few questionables on the Bengals end, along with out Michael Thomas there. Very interesting. Yeah, +2.5 here for New Orleans at home, but that kind of speaks to the struggles that the Bengals have been having. Obviously, 2 and 3 for a reason themselves. What you thinking on this one?
There's a large portion of me that wants to back Taysom Hill to have some kind of a crazy game
Hey,
and clip the Bengals, but there's a very important storyline in this game that I don't think people recognize. Joe Burrow has never lost a game in the state of Louisiana. He's going home. He's going home. He he was a god at LSU. I would not be shocked if this crowd is surprisingly pro Bengals for this one. Louisiana loves their college ball more than they love the Saints. They really do. That is an LSU place first and foremost. And the Saints fans will be there, but let me tell you something. I have a sneaky suspicion there's going to be a large portion of LSU Burrow jerseys in the crowd. It's going to be it's not going to be an awful away situation for Burrow. He loves the area. He's comfortable there. Played many a game in the Superdome. I like the Bengals in this one. I feel like the familiarity with the situation for Joe Burrow. I do feel like there's going to be a sneaky good crowd response for him, and I just feel like the Bengals should be a better team.
yeah, I have the Bengals as well in this one. It's it was a really tough one that last game they just had. a game they could have definitely won against Baltimore. We kind of went over some of the drives that they had, sequence of drives that they had in this game that really let them down. Because they did. They held that Baltimore team pretty well, only to the 19 points. New Orleans had this crazy shootout game against Seattle and ended up winning that. But I think some of those numbers, they're really going to pop at you, those Taysom Hill numbers. But that's a Taysom Hill going against that Seattle defense. Bengals have had their struggles on defense, but they just actually played a pretty damn good game against Baltimore. I gotta believe they're coming out a little bit better right now. It'd be kind of funny to see Andy Dalton just light up his old team a little bit, but I gotta still lean the Bengals as the better team here. And with the spread that close right there, it's pretty much a pick 'em. I feel at that point. Give me the Bengals on the road.
Yeah, for
It's a
sure.
great point that you bring up, though. Obviously about the LSU connection and to that state and yeah.
I was swinging New Orleans until I thought about it, and I remembered like this is Burrow's backyard, man. He knows this place like the back of his hand. He's gonna be real comfortable on the road. He's gonna be eating like a king, right? Like it's gonna be just a very cozy time for him in New Orleans. I think that's gonna help him out a lot.
Understood. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know. That's an interesting thing. Yeah, the college town, and I think for your professional, yeah, you'll get some appreciation that sort of thing if you're coming back to essentially the same area as a professional and you're on a different team,
Yeah,
that sort of thing. You'd probably get that love for sure, but yeah, for those states where it's like the institution, that sort of thing, like
yeah,
I think if it's
Alabama.
yeah,
Like there's no
Bama
real
or something
pro
like that, or
team.
yeah, like
Tennessee would be another
Tennessee,
pretty good example, I
like
think, of that. Nashville.
Kansas or something like that on the
Yeah,
basketball side of thing, right?
yeah,
Like the
Kansas on
flip
the
side,
basketball
like
side.
yeah, like yeah, those college teams are dedicated fan bases that just
Yeah.
have just a history there. So, um, yeah, interesting point to be brought up on that. But yeah, that'll be an interesting game. I think that's still in that AM time slot, so probably won't see it myself, but we'll keep an eye on it. Um, keep it moving though into the next game. Very interesting. We got two winning record teams. Maybe one of these we weren't expecting right here. Baltimore Ravens, which I think we were expecting perhaps to be above 500, going into New York to face off against the Giants in MetLife. Giants getting plus 5.5 at home, but this is a 4-1 Giants team all of a sudden. So a couple winning teams right here. What are you thinking for this one?
This is another one where I have a conflicting opinion of head versus gut. Because my head says the Giants are coming back from London
Right.
off of a very tight, hard fought win in London. This is a letdown game. 100%. My gut is telling me Brian Dabble loves watching teams who implode on themselves, and taking advantage of it. And the Ravens implode on themselves a lot. Lamar Jackson's pass accuracy really needs to start being questioned. He is missing dudes like crazy. And I don't know. I'm gonna go against my better feelings about this and go with the Ravens. Just because I feel like that London trap catches everyone,
Hmm.
right? Those games suck. You come home late that night from London. The next day, you're jet lagged for the next couple after coming back. It's a whole process of getting back into it. It just the Ravens have too much talent here, and the Giants are going to be too out of sorts from a crazy week to, I think, make up the difference. But if the Giants do the Giants thing they've done really well this year, which is, hey, this team is really self-destructing. Let's just play smart. Let them self-destruct. Quads, run the ball. Daniel, play it safe. The Giants could very easily steal this one from the Ravens.
This one's yeah, this one's tricky. This one's a little tricky, and it's for a couple reasons for me. Uh, I agree as far as the you could get a lot of free yardage, free plays, possessions off this Ravens team. It
Yeah.
seems this is a Giants team that was able to take advantage of that last week. The injury report for the Ravens: Rashad Bateman out, Justin Houston out, Ben Cleveland out again. Uh, we already knew. Yeah, Marcus Williams, that's been known for a while, on IR. Some tough injuries for this defense. This Giants team isn't without their own injuries. Obviously, pretty much. I think some of these the same as last week. We already knew. Yeah, Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay, they were already depleted receiving core last week, right?
Yeah. Wandale Robinson updated to questionable, so that would help them out a little bit.
Yeah. Um, this one's close. This one was close for me, but you know what? I went again against them last week, and they burned me. So I gotta go with them this week. I gotta go with the Giants. I think I like that 5.5 spread too.
No,
That's a
fair.
very spicy spread. I think in this game potentially. Um, so yeah, we'll go with the Giants on that one. We'll have a split there. Another potential split game. Let's get right into it. This one's a big one. Big old spread on this one. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Pittsburgh.
An easy pick.
The Pittsburgh Steelers getting plus 9.5 at home. They are 1-4. Easy pick apparently for Craig. Who do you got?
I'm not convinced the Buccaneers can score 9.5 points. Um, this Bucks offense stinks. Um, I know we all want to pretend like it's Tom Brady, it'll be fine. No, he's old. This team's bad. Stop pretending it's anything else. Um, I like a lot of what I saw to Kenny Pickett last week. Let's dial him back. Let's get this running game working. You have Najee Harris. Let's use him. I don't think the Steelers are going to win this, but they're not losing by 10.
Fair enough. So you got the Steelers. But wait. I got something for you here. And this might change your mind just a bit. Have you looked at this injury report for the Steelers team? It's bad.
I haven't thumbed it yet, but let's see what we got.
Minka Fitzpatrick out
Knew
with a
that.
knee. Arkello Witherspoon. Not a huge name. Name I recognize. He's kind of like your third or fourth. Out.
Yeah,
Cameron Sutton.
I
Out.
knew Cameron Sutton was out. And I knew
Levi
Freiermuth was
Wallace.
out.
Out. Firemuth. Out. DeMarvin Leal. Out. They have lost 4 defensive backs, a defensive end, and probably one of your really go-to targets in Freiermuth there. Not exactly. I mean, he hasn't been putting up crazy numbers. And you have Deontay Johnson and such, Claypool, whatever. They get looks. They've let him down, though, too. I think this is just the game for Brady to be able to pick apart these DBs. I think Tampa Bay clears this Pittsburgh team by well over 10. I think this is a 14-plus point win.
Sweet injury list there you got. Put me in, coach. I'm pretty sure I could blanket Scotty Miller the way he's fucking playing right now. This Buccaneers offense sucks. It's bad. I stand by it. I don't care who they're playing. It doesn't matter when you are not good.
I think it's I don't know. It will be remain to be seen. I think this is a Tampa Bay team that I think outside of that KC game has had a pretty damn good defense themselves. Um,
I'm not banking on the Steelers to win. I'm
no,
banking on them to lose 17-11,
no.
17-10, something stupid like that.
But I think you have that many injuries on the defensive side. I got to figure that with, you're talking about a healthy Mike Evans, you're talking about a healthy Chris Godwin. Um, if you kind of get shades almost of what you had last game with Fournette. You don't need that whole thing, but you get enough. Like I could see them putting up a lot of points against this Pittsburgh team. They're just depleted. That's the unfortunate thing. They're a team that's very thin already. They don't have a lot of depth, and they're depleted right now. So I wonder how much they'll be able to hang on. We'll see.
I think the fact that Fournette was their best receiver against the Falcons
Right.
speaks largely to where Tom Brady's arm is at.
Could be a thing. Could be a thing. Absolutely. It's not like he hasn't been getting hit. That's for damn sure. But yeah, all right. So we got split there. I got Tampa. You got Pittsburgh. All right. Let's go into this is the Car versus the Lar. That's as far as if you're going for the initials on it. Carolina going into Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Another giant spread. We got -10 for the Rams here at
I
home.
hate this one.
2-3 versus 1-4. What I'm seeing is that Baker is listed doubtful, very likely a PJ Walker start, I believe, for the Panthers on this one. Fun fact, PJ Walker is 2-0 as a starter for this team in games he has started. This Rams team, they're still beat the fuck up on their offensive line. They now have Cam Akers, who's going to be out for personal reasons, I believe, in this game.
Yeah.
And from some quotes that I was reading, I don't know how true they all were, if they were taken out of context, but some question marks on his future with the team as well, I guess, as far as things go.
Good.
Doesn't sound good. That being said, you're still talking about Matthew Stafford with Cooper Kupp. This is not a great Panthers team. What you thinking? Sigh. Yes.
Because, like, the Rams stink.
Right.
32nd in total offense in the league. Fun fact, there's 32 NFL teams. They are the worst. Sometimes, when you fire a coach, the dead cat bounces your way. Not only do the Panthers cover this spread,
You got
but
them winning
PJ
outright.
Walker is running an upset win
Yes!
over the LA Rams. Christian McCaffrey runs for $150 here, and I think the Rams tailspin into nothingness continues.
Let's go. I love to hear it. That's your Sports Clichés upset pick of the week. I always thought that this was going to be a shock. I was like, not only do I have Carolina to beat the spread, I got them winning outright, PJ Walker. That was going to be my whole thing, and then you took it from me. So now we both got it. So now Carolina not only going to beat this spread. Absolutely. No, this is going to be a shocking win. The Rams are going to look every bit as bad of 2-4 as this team. Really, like right now, they don't have an offensive line. This team's going to get beat the hell up on the inside. They're not going to have a running game, and I think this Carolina defense, there's still something to be said for this defense. It doesn't completely fall off, I feel like, so quickly. They're not playing to that level so far this season. I like what you bring up about the bounce back game after a coach being fired. You play up for the assistant coach, whoever gets thrown to the fire in that situation. Those games have happened before. Yeah, I love Carolina in this game.
It's not like Steve Wilkes is a guy who is a nobody, right? This is a
Yeah.
dude who's been around the league forever. Been a head coach, I believe, with Arizona, right?
Hmm.
Uh, he's been everywhere, right? Like you look at his resume of coaching. He's been head coaches in college and head coach in the NFL and defensive backs coach in college and defensive backs coach in the NFL. He's been everywhere. He knows what he's doing. Honestly, I don't trust this Rams offense to really do anything, and I think this feels like the kind of game where Christian McCaffrey just kind of goes off on someone.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'll be interested to see like something's clicked with PJ Walker back there before. I don't think it'll be anything that's outstanding, but I don't know. You get a rally behind with guys that like you, that sort of thing. Who knows? And yeah, I think this is a fun opponent. This is a crazy spread. But yeah, I certainly don't see them winning by 10. But yeah, I actually think this could be the upset win right here. Um, for Carolina coming off a bad loss, so it'd be crazy. Um, Talking about those Rams, let's keep moving into a couple NFC West opponents as well. Arizona going into Seattle, a couple 2-3 NFC West teams here. Seattle getting +2.5 at home. This is a yeah. Rashad Penny, as we were talking about, going to be out, so this is going to be relying on the backup there, as you've already been. We've talked about Geno Smith as well. I think yeah, James Conner actually. So both, I'll do that. Both starting backs on both sides. Just recently going out for both these teams, but and I've talked about how bad the Seattle team is, but somehow this Arizona team might be worse. Might be. It's tough. It's tough to think that. They've been really dinged up, but damn, they might be worse.
I'll say it right now. I have the Hawks. I got the Seahawks here. I this Cardinal like Geno Smith right now. Like everybody's talking about Geno Smith playing better than Russell Wilson because he is. Not that hard to do right now. I'm pretty sure me sitting on my chair here talking on this podcast is playing football better than Russell Wilson is at the moment because I'm not near the field. Um, he's been better than Kyler Murray this year. I don't get why the Cardinals are the favorites coming into this one. I feel like it's perception versus reality, right? There's this perception of the Cardinals that they should be a decent team,
Yeah,
that they should be able to, like, Kyler Murray should be able to outduel Geno Smith.
right.
Their defense should be able to hold up enough to get them this win. But none of that has happened for the Cardinals this year. What has happened is Geno Smith has been the better quarterback in this game. Both defenses are atrocious and there's going to be a lot of points. But I'm going to take the quarterback who's playing better right now. It's Geno.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I like Geno as far as the quarterbacks how they're playing right now. It's it's the things that I think aren't to the Seahawks' strength. It's kind of interesting ones. It's they give up the most yards per game. They give up a the mostly rushing yards. Uh, terrible
No
time
James
of
Conner.
terrible time possession team. But yeah, that's exactly it. It's like that's no strength of the Cardinals. They just
Yeah,
lost more of that.
do you trust Eno Benjamin to run on this team?
It's not a great scoring team either. They're 18th in the league, 21 average, that sort of thing. It's not been a good scoring defense for the Seahawks, but like there's nothing that's like really there's nothing I believe that the Cardinals really do, especially that I feel like they do better right now. And I think the things
Yeah.
that they really hurt on, um, I think they really miss Chandler Jones. That's for damn sure. This
Oh,
team
yes.
cannot get any
They
pressure.
cannot get to the quarterback.
So it's like it's that. Um, yeah, Kyler seems lost out there at times, and Gino seems a little bit more confident in his play. And yeah, I think they're falling into I think as we talked about before, a decent running back situation there as well. Um, yeah, I like the Seahawks as well.
Yeah, I think the only way you can really look at this game and fade the Cardinals is if you're feeling like it's got to turn around eventually. Like the talent's going to turn around at some point.
Yeah,
But we haven't seen anything to make you believe that that's the case.
yeah.
There's a very realistic possibility where this is just who the Cardinals are. They're just not very good.
I think as you know, and this is you'll get exposed soon enough. I feel like in the, I mean, already you could argue they've been exposed, but I think that 2-3. I haven't taken a look exactly how the rest of their schedule goes, but I don't know. The feeling is that they can't really. This is going to be one of the few games they're going to be a favorite in. I still don't like them. Basically,
Yeah,
it's kind of that point I was getting. It's like they should have games where they'd be otherwise favored, but I don't think that's going to continue. I think the books are going to start fading them basically, and
yeah.
this is probably one of the. I feel like this might be one of the last favored lines that we're going to see for the Cardinals this season.
Maybe that Bears game towards the middle of the season if the Bears continue to stink.
Yeah,
Depending on how the Falcons season shapes out, if if their effort starts to fade away into less and less realistic hope, maybe that's a game where they get a little bit of favorite love. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't see it here. This is, by the way, sneaky game of the week because points aplenty in this one. I promise you that. Lots of scoring. Bet the over.
Will be a fun one in that afternoon window. Let's go to the other one. I guess only 3 games in that afternoon window. You got Carolina the Rams. You got that Cardinals Seahawks game to choose from, or this might be the game of the week as well. Buffalo going into Kansas City.
How the
Two
fuck is this not prime time?
two 4-1 juggernauts. Um, Buffalo or yeah, Buffalo -2.5 on the road. Going into KC here. So very interesting, I felt, on the spread for that. Taking a look at the injury report for this. Jordan Phillips, the notable one for the Bills being out. You got a couple guys here for the Chiefs. Rashad Fenton is someone I recognize. I'm not too sure as far as slotted in where they go, but yeah, Buffalo getting favored. This is your second best scoring offense, and your tied first best scoring defense, I believe, in the league here in Buffalo. So I suppose that's why they get the 2.5.
You had the Bills and Chiefs on the schedule, and our Monday night game is the fucking Broncos and Chargers.
AFC West barn burner, man.
You put the Commanders and Bears on Thursday? I could have told you at the start of the year that game was gonna suck. How do you screw this up and not put this thing in prime time? This is gonna be a fucking awesome game. The Bills have the better roster, I think, top to bottom. Um, but Mahomes is playing on a different level right now, man. He heard the people whispering about him losing Tyreek Hill and him not being the same quarterback, and he went full Kermit voice angry on that one, man. He was straight pissed off, I think, at that. He's coming out firing. I like the Chiefs to maintain status quo in this one, as far as being the slightly better team over the Bills. They did it in the playoffs. I think that's still there in the Bills' head a little bit. I think if the Bills win this game, it goes massive towards what they can do in the playoffs. As far as just getting that monkey off the back, getting that demon out of the head, that could be a big thing. This game's going to be fucking awesome. But I think Mahomes right now, as good as Josh Allen's playing, I think Mahomes just has that ability to just win games. Right? Like, even when Patrick Mahomes isn't at his Mahomesian best, that last drive he will be, right? The drive that matters, he will absolutely Patrick Mahomes the shit out of that drive, and the Chiefs will win. He does it all the time. This Bills defense is tough, but I don't think there's a defense in the NFL that can stop the Chiefs when they really get going.
Yeah, I mean, I that's kind of the question a little bit. I would say. I would say, yeah. I think that's a good thing to look at. The Buffalo defense, obviously, with the addition of Vaughn, right? That's kind of
Yeah.
one of the biggest things you're looking at. Are they going to get there? They're your sixth best in the league in sacks, first in interceptions as well. So they get there. They get their picks. They get all that. It's the flip side that's a little interesting to me. This is a Chiefs team that actually only has one pick on the year, but this is I'm not too sure how many fumble recoveries or anything they have. This Buffalo team has turned it over 10 times in these first 5 games. So they give up an average of a couple of them. Depending on when those happen, where those happen, that could be tough for the Bills. Just a little bit more volatile on that side, I suppose, is what you kind of think about it. This one's very interesting to me in the fact that you have a. I think the Bills have looked so dominant in their wins, right?
Yes.
38-3. The Baltimore one being close, the Miami loss being close, but then a 41-7 win. Chiefs stuff has been a lot closer against a random teams. Won by 1 point against Vegas. Almost took the upset there. Which I did bring that up, by the way. I knew that was going to be a close one.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, Tampa Bay played them. I mean, that scores. I'll throw that out.
That
That was an
scored
outlier. That shouldn't have been a
sleeping.
41-31. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Team somehow lost the Colts. It was kind of the Colts bounce back game. I it's
Everybody gets caught.
yeah. As volatile, and I don't like the volatility that the Buffalo Bills have in this. They are favored, and I wouldn't have ever expected them to be favored. It's just kind of a gut feeling, I guess, at this point. And I'm just trying to bring up random points to convince myself of it. I picked the Bills.
Yeah, you can go a million different ways and bring up good
Yeah.
points. This Chiefs defense is desperately missing Charvarius Ward, right? They don't have that number one shutdown corner that they're very used to having. Uh, Bills defense, yeah, they force a lot of turnovers. They do give up a good chunk of yards, and boy, you don't want to be giving up chunk yard plays to Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
That's generally a bad, right? Like you can go, I will cheap plug to the college football blog, posted it today, but I was talking about the Alabama Tennessee game, and I said I could bring up a million different stats about these two teams that can explain the game one way or the other, but all they'll end up telling you is that you're looking at the two of the elite teams in the nation. Same thing here. I could bring up 50 different stats about why the Bills would win or why the Chiefs would win, but at the end of the day, all you get out of it is it's two of the best teams in the league. It's going to be a firefight. Anytime you have a game like this, you're picking one or two plays that are going to happen over the course of the game that we're just going to have to wait and see. You're picking on a gut instinct about which team's going to make those plays at this point.
Yeah, I think it's this game could play out so like it could be the blowout one way, it could be the blowout other way, it could be a back and forth. Could end just like that last one did. Last 2 minutes,
Yeah.
both these teams are, touchdown, tie it up, overtime. It ends on a stinker play, perhaps. Like just like, oh, and then the game's over. Could end up like that. It's yeah, so many different ways. And really, yeah, you kind of I don't think you could really go wrong with either one of these picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a great game. Let's go into one of the final two of the week, the Sunday night matchup. Couple NFC East juggernauts, and who thought we'd be saying that? But Dallas at Philly. 5-0 Philly, 4-1 Dallas. Philly getting -6.5 here at home. Do you think Cooper Rush could keep it within that point spread, or got
I
the
got the Eagles.
Eagles?
I got the Eagles. I love Cooper Rush. Uh, I think I think a lot of what this Dallas defense has been doing has been phenomenal. And my God, somebody give Dan Quinn another chance. He was a damn good head coach for the Falcons and ran into a bad circumstance and has been an unbelievable coordinator for Dallas. And my God, we have like 8 bad coaches in the NFL. Can one of them hire Dan Quinn and the other one hire Brian Flores, please? Anyways,
There you go.
sidetrack. Um, Cooper Rush is very good at not making mistakes. The thing about this Eagles team is you're going to need to do a little bit more than not make mistakes to beat them. You're going to need to make a couple of those big plays that are going to swing this game. I don't know if he's got that in him. If he does, and if he pulls this out, we were talking about him getting the bag. He might get the bag from Dallas. I've joked about it for weeks about how Jerry Jones has been looking for a reason to scapegoat Dak Prescott. Man, if Cooper Rush can pull this one off, oh, how are you gonna pull him?
Yeah.
That being said, I I want to believe in my heart of hearts that he can. Not out of a love for Dallas or anything like that, because I fucking love stories like Cooper Rush out of Central Michigan, right? It's one of those stories that you want to be a fairy tale. I think in reality, it's a little more of this Dallas team has an unbelievably well coached defense that has been doing great things, and he has been being good enough to win games. In this game, he's going to need to do more than that. He's going to need to find a way to get this Dallas offense to win the game. I don't think he has that in him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. So, first thing that stood out to me is I thought back and I thought about how, as good as the Eagles are, 5-0 team right now, how they won. They start off with a 38-35 win against Detroit. 3-point win. Pick up a couple good ones in which they score 24, hold their opponents single digits in Minnesota and Washington. Jacksonville game where they win by 8 points, still within a single possession, 29-21. And then they squeak by in that one last week against Arizona. So my initial feel is, Eagles are winning games. It's not 6.5 points games, though. Like,
3 of those 5 wins were.
3 of those 5 wins work, but this is a Dallas Cowboys team that is above every single team I would say I mentioned, except for Minnesota,
Who they beat by more than 6.5.
Yes. So the point being is that lately these games have been a little bit closer, and an Arizona team that is nowhere near what this Cowboys team is, and it was just a 3-point win. That being said, right now you have a Eagles team that is not only playing well, and they're finding ways to win games, and it might not be the greatest of margins. They're one of the few teams that you take a look at them, and there's not a whole lot on that injury report either. They still got their guys going. They got their rotations going. This is basically, you see the stats that they have, and they're putting out the same guys that put up these stats. There's no fall off, that sort of thing. It's like you didn't have an injury to a Joey Bosa, so, that's why your sack numbers are. These are the guys, they're doing it right here. And you're talking about damn near pretty much top 10 across every major category on offense and defensive side. As much as we love Cooper Rush, and I like to see that he's doing well and he's winning games as a starter himself, I can't I can't figure that Dallas is going to have enough defensive wise to be able to, like, it just doesn't quite match up that well. For 6.5 is the worst. Like, this one was the incredibly tough line. 6.5 is a really tough spread
I
because
did struggle with this line too.
I feel like the Eagles, they could play a game where they're only going to win this by 4 or whatever, and it can still be kind of a convincing win, but they still play them to like that close.
Yeah.
I gotta feel though they're just not enough offensively for Dallas right now, so I do have the Eagles. But it took me convincing myself at first, basically, because everything that I was seeing initially, I'm like, well, Philly's winning, but they're not winning by much, and not against teams like Dallas. But I think they got it this week. And we'll go to the Monday night matchup, AFC West. You know, when they scheduled this, they thought this was going to be a really good game.
And this one, I'm fine with them putting in prime time because I understand the thought process scheduling it. Ooh, AFC West is getting a little bit dicey this year. Everybody's fighting for it. You got Chargers, you got Broncos. This is going to be a fun one. Wilson versus Herbert.
But we're getting just another Broncos primetime game. We've already got like 2 or 3 of the damn things so far. I don't want to see them again. But they're going to be playing Denver going to LA to face off against the Chargers. 2-3 versus 3-2. Chargers getting -4.5 at home on Monday night. Who ya got?
So, I brought up a stat last week that I love called DVOA. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And for people who don't know, essentially how it works is you have a 1st and 10. You gain 10 yards. Positive on your DVOA. You gain 50 yards. Same positive on your DVOA. You gain 1 yard. Negative on your DVOA. You're off schedule. Essentially, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to measure the efficiency of an offense, right? It reduces the impact of your big boom plays that hypothetically you can't reproduce consistently, while increasing the value of picking up first downs, moving the ball, continuing drives. The Broncos rank 28th in offensive DVOA this season, only ahead of such offensive powerhouses as the Carolina Panthers and Cleveland Browns. These are their contemporaries as far as their offensive efficiency have been this year. They're horrendous. Yeah, the Chargers have had their issues, but not nearly to the extent that the Broncos have had. It's not going to be the pretty game we all hoped it was, but I think the Chargers win this one. I don't have any reason to believe this Broncos offense is going to change anytime soon. This is just who they are.
Chargers.
Yeah.
That's all to be said now. No, but really, it's a. I mean, just some of these things, like it's just a. You have such a lack of offensive production from that Broncos side. I can't believe that a team with what I would have felt like has they have this weird makeup to where they can, at random time, the only time he did it during this year, and I guess it's not a random time, it was clutch enough. It was Russell when he went off that one drive, and he looked like Russell Wilson, and it was like that drive against the Niners, very end of the
last
game.
drive against the Niners, yeah.
Moving the pocket, escaping what looked like for sure sacks, shovel pass, and then finding his man downfield for like your more traditional pocket pass, that sort of thing, finding space, all that stuff. It's such a like one-off. It's perplexing. I've never seen a guy like have that flash so much in a established career. And then basically last season you were seeing a lot of glimpses of it. He stopped running a lot, and that team was bad anyways for Seattle.
Yeah.
But it's like non-existent, his attempts to run the ball, which is like you need the running attack behind him as well, and they haven't had that at all. But you also have to have the fear of him being able to escape the pocket and burn you that way too. That's how that offense is kind of always worked around him. It's when he's played at his best, and I don't think they have the tools to do that. I don't think they have the scheme to do that. I don't think he wants to do that. Honestly, it seems like it's just everything goes against what they need to do to have production out of Russell Wilson. So yeah, I don't know if I'm picking the Broncos the rest of the damn season. We'll see what these spreads are, but give me the Chargers all day, every day
Yeah.
on this one.
Yeah. It's their offensive problems are not the kind of thing
Yeah.
that you can fix overnight.
Second bet. I mean, you're talking on the other side. This is a Chargers team that their defense is garbage, but they also are down their best player, Joey Bosa, on that defense.
Yeah.
So they're hurting from that. And this offense can fucking go. Your second best pass offense, still top 10 in scoring per game. So
And it
it's,
looks like they've finally gotten Austin Eckler
yes.
back into the game plan.
And they got a
And
couple
that's
nice
going to be
ones.
huge in this game.
After a really ugly loss against Jacksonville, they've been able to get it done and pick up a couple wins against Houston and Cleveland, some teams that you get right with. And
Yeah.
the Broncos have not. They just dropped their last two games, and probably one of the ugliest games you'll see all season in the Colts last year. It's
If
hard
not
to put
the
any faith
ugliest.
in. It's hard to believe that they're to have any uh, faith in that turning around within a
Yeah.
week.
It's not the kind of thing that it's just like, oh, we're back. We're putting up 40 points now.
Right.
Right. Maybe it's the kind of thing that after a bye week you can start to tinker with and the results start to come around then, but before then there's absolutely no way this offense is going to be anything other than what we've seen.
Yeah. And so that will do it right there. That's our set of picks. We have bye weeks. We did teams we didn't mention. Detroit, Houston, Las Vegas, and Tennessee all on bye, so they're not going to be included in these picks. So that's the slate right there. We actually only differed on 3 picks this week. Baltimore at New York against the Giants. Giants getting plus 5.5 at home. I have the Giants. Craig has Baltimore. Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh getting plus 9.5 at home. I have Tampa Bay. Craig has Pittsburgh. And Buffalo at KC. Kansas City. Kansas City getting plus 2.5 at home. I'm taking Buffalo. Craig is taking KC. Other than that, we are all joined up on those picks. So there you go. That will be your week 6 slate. Should be some good ones this weekend for sure. And yeah, some good ones right toward the end. There's some great afternoon games there. And Sunday night football is going to be good. Should be a fun one. Monday night, we'll see about these two guys. We'll see.
We will see.
But that'll do it for the NFL right now. Anything else you want to hit on? I mean, I suppose other NFL news potentially, but anything else you want to touch upon as we wrap up this episode of Sports Clichés?
I need a second to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays,
Oh,
if I may.
absolutely.
If I may be given a second,
Yeah.
talk about the fucking disgrace of an organization. That's not true. They're actually a very well run organization. I'm not gonna be one of those fans who something embarrassing happens and you go, oh my god, we're horribly run. Blue Jays are actually very well run. They're relatively new in the grand scheme of franchise ownership in the MLB. Got 2 World Series. They're constantly in and around the playoff picture in the toughest division in baseball. They're actually pretty well run. What the fuck was that? How do you blow an 8-1 lead in the playoffs? How?
Yeah.
The Blue Jays offseason was supposed to be 2 things. Balancing out the lineup and fixing the bullpen. The bullpen last year was a fucking mess. and the lineup needed a little bit of work. Felt like the lineup balancing has started to get there, right? They got noticeable production from like a lot of different spots. Matt Chapman is going to win a Gold Glove. His defense has been phenomenal. Um, Bullpen. Gosman gives you 5 2/3. He gets hung for 4 runs. Really unfair because Meza gave up a grand slam. Uh, Coming on in relief of him. Meza gives up a run. Jimmy Garcia, the only person I trust in that bullpen. Well, that's not true. I'm not going to throw Jordan Romano under the bus for a bad game, but we'll talk about him in a second. Jimmy Garcia comes in, pitches 2/3 of an inning clean. Anthony Bass can't get an out and gives up 3 earned runs. Fuck. Okay. Go to Jordan Romano, close this game out. Jordan gets out of Bass's inning fine. Then he starts walking dudes, giving up hits. He can't find the strike zone. Now all of a sudden we're fucking tied. Great. Bottom of the ninth, or top of the ninth. They score, win this game 10-9. The Blue Jays pitching staff, starter and bullpen rotation, needs to be reworked completely. You keep Alek
Damn.
Manoah, because he is very good. You keep Kevin Gosman, because he had a good year. You keep Jose Barrios, because his contract requires that you keep him. Nobody's taking it. That's it. In the bullpen, you keep Romano, because he did have a great year. You can forgive this. And you keep Jimmy Garcia. Every single player in that pitching staff, open season. You're listening to offers. You're looking to upgrade. It doesn't matter. That bullpen cannot keep doing that for you. It's been a problem for this team for fucking years. It was the problem for them in 2020 when they lost in the wild card round. It's the problem for them again when they lose in the wild card round. They keep trying to tinker and toy with it and keep kind of most of the pieces the same, but add in a couple high leverage guys who should balance it out, and it doesn't work. Enough. Restart. What you have isn't working. This lineup, too young and too good to have bullpen games like this. I'm not going to be. I know there's a lot of people on like Vladimir Guerrero, why he hit a home run in that game. Teoscar Hernandez had a 2-run home run game. Bo Bichette had a run and or had was 1 for 4 with a walk. He was fine. You scored 9 runs. It's not on them. At some point, they got to figure out pitching. That's the one thing holding this Blue Jays team back from being really good. And hopefully this offseason, they make it known in that clubhouse because, fun fact, they play in the city of Toronto. Directly across from their stadium is the place where the Maple Leafs play. And that team has let a losing culture fester for way too long, and now it's toxic. They lose all the time. This is a team that hasn't won a playoff series since 2004 because they just let that losing thing fester. And yeah, oh, well, we lost in the first round, but next year's our year. We don't need to change anything, and now it's too late. Nip that in the bud right now. If you're the Blue Jays, you gotta. You gotta let guys know that collapses like that, not okay. As for what's going on now, the Padres are giving the Dodgers a scare and a half.
Yep.
The Phillies doing the same thing to the Braves. Certainly an interesting time in the NL. The AL seems to be going relatively predictable. The Guardians pitch well but can't score runs. The Astros are better than the Mariners.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the the interesting things, obviously, you kind of take away. It's unfortunate to see. I think Toronto obviously for you guys, but then for that team to be able to sweep that 3-game series and now just go immediately down 2-0 to that Astros team. That's unfortunate. It's just like Jesus Christ, like we lost to those guys. They're fucking fumbling the bag now that they're in the next round.
Yeah.
That always kind of sucks to see, just from a observer standpoint. And then I do love to see it. I love to see as much as I am not a Padres fan by any means. Love to see them beating the Dodgers. So that's
Everybody
really
loves to see them
that's
beating the Dodgers.
that's all I really got. I yeah, 2-1 game. Yeah, to where they just kind of they put together. I think their starter only pitched 5 innings and kind of pieced together otherwise. But yeah, holding the Dodgers down to just the single run on a sac fly, I believe. So pretty impressive there. Yeah, good old playoff baseball. Starting to get into it as we're starting to get into it with all the sports. This is the rare time where we got kind of all four active right now, right? We got
Oilers looked great in their season opener,
yeah,
so
yeah, the Sharks I believe playing right now. Actually, Sharks and the Warriors playing right now. Warriors they've been looking good this preseason. Lakers absolutely suck apparently this preseason. They're down 20 to the Kings.
usually like a great thing for teams. Usually sucking in preseason means you're
Yeah,
generally gonna have a pretty good year.
I don't know about this Lakers team though. They're down 21 to the Kings. This is not good.
They're bad. I don't like this Lakers team at all. There are people who are straight up on the Lakers are winning the championship bandwagon, and I'm like, oh, that's a leap.
think
I'm not even
think the
on the
Warriors
Lakers
were
are
the.
making the playoffs bandwagon, and your championship, huh?
I know the Dubs would love to see them in the playoffs. If they ever made it. That's for damn sure.
Oh, oof,
Oh yeah. Um.
oof, Maron.
Yeah. Um.
Uh,
Yeah.
I got Fight World News is next week.
Yeah.
Next
That's
week.
right. Yeah.
Next week is the Fight World News.
Yeah. And of course, along with that, we'll be going over this weekend's games. We'll go over our week 7 predictions, and yeah, more news I'm sure out of the playoffs, out of the preseason, the upcoming regular seasons for the other guys. So yeah, I think that'll do it for this episode for us. Um, Great to have you. Thank you all for joining us. As always, you could actually. Now that I think about it, crap, we probably won't be on next Friday. Thinking about the timing of everything, because I'm
We
not.
will not.
We will not. So you're gonna have to catch that. We'll double it up somehow. We'll cover some stuff. We won't go crazy amount of hours or anything on the podcast, but we'll try to brush over some of the stuff we'll get this past weekend or this upcoming weekend, I should say. But yeah, so we will be off, but typically you'll be able to catch Sports Clichés podcast every Friday starting at 6 p.m. Pacific time. You catch that on live on Twitch at twitch.tv/tapatioj right here. That's TAPATIOJ. Or you can look us up on YouTube, catch the VOD over there. You can look us up, Sports Clichés. Just type that in right to YouTube. You'll be able to find it through that. Also be able to check out Craig's blog that he has going under the same name, Sports Clichés blog, where he's covering the world of college football as well. So go
Yeah,
check that out.
fun weekend. Anybody who's a big college football person, this is going to be one of the better weekends of the season. You got, I think, 6 different top 25 matchups. Uh, Penn State and Michigan, Tennessee and Alabama, USC and Utah, as far as like will have major implications on the college football playoffs. It's a crazy good weekend.
All right, and that'll be starting tomorrow. Obviously, some great games there, and that'll do it for us tonight. So thank you all for joining us very much. I'm Jay. That's Craig. Thank you all for stopping by. We will see you not next week, but the week after for some more sports cliches. Bye bye.
Who's this?